voting for due process was not followed. Misleading Parliament is a resigning offence.
The Ambassador has repeatedly expressed his deep regret for his association with him. He's right to do so. I have confidence in him, and he's playing an important role in the UK-US relationship.
It was clear that the Prime Minister wanted to make this appointment himself, and had therefore I understand that the FCDO was informed of his decision and acted upon it, and via the Foreign Secretary sought and obtained the King's approval for the appointment.
Even the expectation that Ollie Roberts felt quite comfortable, this is what we're being asked to believe.
Yes.
To hold back this information that he knew that he had that Mandelson had failed the vetting process, and that at no stage that it was necessary to tell the Prime Minister.
It's unbelievable. So he either knew and lied on this issue, or he didn't know, and that's just as bad.
Can the Prime Minister tell us, did the official security vetting he received mention Mandelson's ongoing relationship with the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein?
So clear. Prime Minister.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time right here on Talk. I'm your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you for 3 powerhouse hours of news, views and topical debate. Get involved, get stuck in, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number, and I promise to play your message out. It is Friday, April the 17th. Here's what's coming up. Liar, liar, pants on fire. Guess who I'm talking about? Well, Foreign Office twonk Sir Ollie Robbins takes the rap. Starmer asks us to believe that a careful career civil servant was informed that Peter Mandelson had failed the ambassadorial vetting process and unilaterally decided not to tell anyone else, to keep a serious issue of national security secret. Prime Minister performative fury during his latest pointless trip abroad, this one to Paris. Is it remotely feasible that Sir Ollie risked his £300,000 a year job and possible prosecution to do something utterly incomprehensible? 0344 499 1000. So, what's the truth? Is Starmer lying again? How much longer can this capricious little fool go on as Prime Minister, a role he is simply not up to? 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, now we know why two-tier Keir lost his rag in the Commons on Wednesday, shouting and screaming at Speaker Sir Lindsay Hoyle. He'd found out a day before that The Guardian was onto the extraordinary Mandy vetting scandal, but opted to keep it from the House. But you've got to hand it to our shameless leader. He's come up with a brilliant idea to avoid the nightmare for him of next week's Prime Minister's questions. The slippery creep is trying to get them cancelled. Is the Prime Minister a coward as well as a liar? 0344 499 1000. I'll be coming at this sensational story from all angles with expert guests throughout the show. How long can Starmer, our worst ever Prime Minister, last? 0344 499 1000. In other news, and you won't believe this, but useless Chancellor Reeves is reported to be refusing to spend more on our horribly depleted armed forces because she objects to the alleged lack of gender parity at the Ministry of Defence, more interested in her student activist juvenile ideology than the safety of the nation. How shocking is that? 03444991000. Plus, the latest from Epsom, where the cops still haven't issued any descriptions of the monsters who gang raped that poor girl nearly a week ago. Why? 03444991000. And they have just before we came onto the show, they've released a statement, the police, saying, I'll just read this, to address the specific commentary, there is no evidence that asylum seekers or immigrants were involved. Well, I never suggested that, and I don't think most people did. What I'm suggesting, I mean, call me controversial, but I suspect that the descriptions that the police do have indicate that the perpetrators of this vile crime were not white. See what I mean? What do you think? 03444991000. Meanwhile, Britain's most patriotic pub wins its battle to retain a giant St George's cross emblazoned on its front wall, and a parenting expert puts psycho-babbling self-style Dad of the Year Prince Harry in his place. Does the dim Duke have the faintest idea what he's talking about? No. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now, on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Friday afternoon, and I should have put this right at the top. This is the biggest news of the day. Kev and Alex are back. It's Crosstalk with Alex Phillips. She's back. It's the most dazzling duo in all of showbiz.
03444991000.
Crosstalk.
I didn't know whether this was like one of those 90s adverts where it's like, have you had a car accident? 03444991000.
Yes, that's
have you had an injury at work? 03444991000. And then it does that sort of garbled bit about the terms and conditions at the end.
Yeah, I don't
make
do
the phone call.
I don't do the T and C.
£1,000 a minute. Don't do it.
Come on, Alex. Let's go.
Okay. I don't know.
Come on, you've got some serious stories to do.
Comic poem mixed with 90s advert. I love the melange.
No, absolutely. Right, Peter Mandelson. Look, this is just coming out. This is just coming out now. Literally, folks. Dan Hodges, excellent columnist on the Mail on Sunday in the Daily Mail. He's just tweeted this. So, in other words, the plot sickens. He says, OK, this is getting ridiculous now. Number 10 has begun claiming that Ollie Robbins was precluded by the rules from sharing information on the vetting. As Dan goes on to say, well, if the reason that Ollie Robbins didn't tell the Prime Minister and the rest of the Cabinet that the ambassador to the United States had veiled his security vetting process was that the system precluded him from doing it, then why has Number 10 sacked him?
I mean, look, come on. First of all, I think they're dealing with the migrant crisis, because they're digging a hole so deep it's going to pop out in Australia, and that's what we used to do with people we wanted to get rid of. We just set them down Hasbro Island. So, but this is so ridiculous. Ollie Robbins was appointed after Peter Mandelson. After the fact. Mandelson was in there, in position, before Robbins came along. It's so mad now. The amount it's comedy farce at this point. Stop it. Stop it, Starmer.
Look. By the way, shall we have a look at, can we have a look at Keir Starmer in Paris? We'll play the Prime Minister's performative fury. Well, let's have a look. Take it away, Keir.
That I wasn't told that Peter Mandelson had failed security vetting when he's appointed is staggering. That I wasn't told that he'd failed security vetting when I was telling Parliament that due process had been followed is unforgivable. Not only was I not told, no minister was told. And I'm absolutely furious about that. What I intend to do is to go to Parliament on Monday to set out all the relevant facts in true transparency, so Parliament has the full picture.
Look, Alex, we know what people like Ollie Robbins are like. He's a career civil servant. These people are scrupulously careful. They're addicted to bureaucracy. They do everything by the rules. It's all, crossing the T's, dotting the I's, putting the staples there. Everything is done according to the book. That's what those people are like. So the idea that Ollie Robbins in the Foreign Office, after Mandelson gets the gig, he's already, measuring up the curtains in the embassy in Washington. He's already there. Robbins gets the report, says, oh my God, he's failed the security vetting. I'll tell you what I'll do with that. I'll keep that secret. That's just preposterous.
Everything's preposterous. So I've got three observations. Number one, Starmer's eyebrows don't move. So normally, you know, they always say it's the tell. You know, when you have like those, you know, body language experts, and the tell of lying is when your eyebrows shoot up to your forehead like that.
Someone's
Starmer's,
lying, that's for
they
sure.
don't move. There's been some. Can't see from his facial expressions, but I think we know what the eyebrows would say if they were relinquished from their prison cell, which is, this is all lies. This is all lies. Because, look, even if the person in the Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office are like, well, you know, Starmer, you really wanted Mandelson to be ambassador, afraid he didn't pass vetting, that phone call would have happened. Maybe it went to Morgan McSweeney as Chief of Staff. Oh, look, he's no longer there. The phone's been stolen. They're running it like The Sopranos.
Yeah,
you go against the mob, political assassination.
Yeah, there's things I want to know. So Ollie Robbins was certainly chucked under the bus swiftly last night. He's taking the rap for this. But as I say, once again, the idea that this man, a man like Ollie Robbins, unilaterally decided not to tell anyone that Mandelson had failed the vetting process, it's for the birds. It's absolute nonsense.
The man who's infamous for having, you know, told of our Brexit secrets in a pub in Brussels. Oh yeah, he loves being tight-lipped.
Yeah, well, exactly. But you know, there was a project to get Mandelson into Washington. You know, questions, of course, need to be asked of Morgan McSweeney, the former Downing Street Chief of Staff, who was in charge of that project. Also, Matthew Doyle, who was Chief of Communications, also gone.
Chief of Communists.
These people need to be talked to. Ollie Robbins is going to go before the Foreign Affairs Select Committee.
For the second time, he went in November,
on Monday.
Didn't he?
Meanwhile, Starmer will appear in the Commons. So, I mean, God knows what Ollie Robbins is going to say, but I don't believe he took a unilateral decision not to tell anyone.
This is all just mental. This is dog ate my homework 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
The dog ate the homework, puked it up and ate it another 3 times. It is just madness. All the circumstantial evidence, all the convenience. Starmer's either deeply unlucky or deeply lucky. For Morgan McSweeney, gone. Well, you know, you get your payout if you know, stay tight-lipped. That's how these things often work.
Yeah.
But then, you know, to find out that his phone, conveniently got stolen. Then, when he made the report to the police, he conveniently got the wrong street name, which happens to be somewhere the other side of the city. Then it turns out that by the time he corrects himself for this, the CCTV's been wiped by now. Then it also turns out when he reported his phone as being stolen, they've obviously got to wipe all the data. So it's very clear what's happened here. The fact that we are supposed to go along with this and believe it, like I said, I feel like the kid, or I feel like the teacher sitting in charge of a primary school. The kid's like, and then I fell out of the air balloon, and then the alligators took my school satchel, and I had to fight with the alligator, punch it in the eye, and I got the homework back, and then some pirates came along. You know, it's just like, for goodness
what we're
sakes.
entitled to say at this stage, because of the Prime Minister, this is my message to the Prime Minister. Yeah, you say you're not lying. Pretty much everyone in the country, every other party leader, pretty much loads of Labour ministers and MPs, they all do think, Mr Starmer, Sir Keir, sorry, you are lying. And so far, you have failed to persuade us or to provide us any feasible explanation or excuse for why you're not lying. So you better come up with something better than you've come up with so far, because right now the Prime Minister of this country looks like, as I said in my erudite fashion, he looks like Mr Liar, Liar, Pants on Fire.
Yeah, well, if those eyebrows were released, we'd see. But, you know,
I'm remembering all about Kevin Alex now.
Now you remembered why it was the best show on earth.
Why have I done
Why did you bring it back? But no, but the thing is this, it's just, you know, if he's not lying directly, he is lying by omission. You know, it's a bit like when someone says, so where you know, what have you been doing what did you get up to last night? Well, I had a quiet night in. But you don't say, I was at my kitchen table cutting up some meth to sell on the street. You know, it's a bit like that. It's what you don't say. He's curating a new reality through edits and through omissions. He could sort this out once and for all and say, this person did the vetting, this person then didn't phone this person, there's our fall guy right there. And yet all the fall guys he's picking are not really the fall guys. It's all part of a cover-up. It's mafioso.
And according to Dan Hodges, Number 10's trying to let it be known that Ollie Robbins didn't break the rules. In fact, he was precluded from passing on the information that the ambassador to the United States had failed his security process. That cannot be true. So what Number 10 seemed to be suggesting now is that Mandelson is put through the vetting process. I mean, quite why they gave him the job before that vetting process
why
was
they even started that
but
thing.
he's put through the process. The results of that process come back, and the recipient is not allowed to tell anyone else.
Mad.
So what is the point of the process?
But it wasn't even him. He wasn't there. That's the point. And are you telling me that when this was addressed in Parliament previously, in around the November time, and now 6 months have passed, and Starmer's not said, well, can I see what happened in that vetting? In 6 months? Come on. Pull the other one. I mean, look, it's very obvious what's going on here. It is clear we're being sold a pack of lies, obfuscation. That we haven't been told. But this is his playbook. He keeps doing this. He's done this repeatedly about Southport. He's done it about so many things now, about the Chagos Islands. It's like, computer says no, I'm going to conduct an independent investigation and I'll make my decision based upon what it says. He hides behind process because he's a human rights lawyer. It doesn't matter how mad it is to not deport someone because of chicken nuggets. That is what the computer says. I've managed to find a legal way around it. It's loopholes, it's circumlocution, it's implausible evidence. Oh, you can't actually submit that, let's strike that off. It's game playing. This is what he's always done. This is what makes a very competent barrister, but a terrible politician, and an especially terrible Prime Minister, because we're not mugs.
Yeah, he's the worst Prime Minister we've ever had. And don't tell me, what about Liz Truss? Yeah, including Liz Truss. Keir Starmer is the worst Prime Minister this country has ever had. Quite clearly, over the last couple of months, this guy has demonstrated that he's just not up to this job. This is not the right job for him. It's overwhelmed him. In fact, it's overwhelmed the entire cabinet. This government is driving this country to hell in a handcart. Let's move on, Alex, because this is a really important story. I was going to cover this anyway, but did it big time yesterday. I'm sure you did as well. This is the situation in Epsom. It is now almost a week because in the early hours of last Saturday morning, a poor girl in Epsom, a leafy, very well-to-do community to the west of London, where the average house price is £712,000. It's full of millionaires. It's a very nice, pretty place. She's gang raped about 2 in the morning outside a Methodist church. She'd been to a local club called Labyrinth. She's been gang raped. Here we are then, almost a week on, and the police still have not released even a semblance of a description of any of the perpetrators. Now, I've been saying, and of course a couple of nights ago, there was a big demonstration there. Of furious local residents saying, look, where's the description? Why aren't you issuing a description? They suspect it's woke policing. They don't want to say that this gang were of ethnic origin. That's what the people are worried about. I said all day yesterday, I'm going out on a limb here, but I'm going to hazard a guess that the descriptions that the police have got indicate that the perpetrators are not white. That's why they haven't put it out. Now, there's a statement here. Well, listen, we've got Assistant Chief Constable for Local Policing, Sarah Graham. I think she's issued a statement. So let's have a little listen to Ms. Graham.
To date, we have not found any evidence of the offence as reported, but the investigation is ongoing. There has been much speculation about the non-release of a description of any suspects, especially regarding the ethnicity. No descriptions have been released, as the information about the incidents and potential suspects is so limited. To address the specific commentary, there is no evidence that asylum seekers or immigrants were involved.
Well, there you are. But what I mean, I never said it was asylum seekers or immigrants. My suspicion is that the suspects don't forget, this is just a reported incident. I mean, the police, God knows where their investigation is, but the suspects, I suspect, are not white.
Well, it seems to be what the police are suggesting is they can't find any evidence for the incident taking place at all. They've looked at lots of CCTV and can't find anything. So I don't know what's going on here. But the general public are now in a position where we hear something like a gang rape especially, or something against a little schoolgirl, and if the details of the supposed perpetrators is not released, we all draw from that omission the fact that there's some sort of cover-up.
It's an Axel Rudick Welsh choir.
Yeah, exactly, and it goes on and on. This has happened too many times. So it's a bit like the boy who cried wolf. You know, who knows if the wolf is there or not? Everyone jumps to this conclusion, and rightfully so, because the police across the UK have covered up the ethnicities and nationalities of certain perpetrators because they think it's too dangerous for the public to have that information. We also know statistically, when it comes to gang rape, I'm not talking about rapes in general, I don't know the statistics on that, but gang rapes are largely perpetrated by non-natives. Yeah. It kind of isn't, I don't know, part of what we do or something. But you can't blame the general public for living in this constant existential crisis, because it's a crisis that has been made by successive governments, by successive police forces. Of course people jump to that conclusion. Of course they do.
Yeah, and the police are saying that they've extensively looked at CCTV, interviewing potential witness, carried out forensics investigations, house-to-house inquiries, and they're saying that as of now they haven't found any evidence that the offence actually happened. That's what they're saying. But they didn't say this why didn't they say this 2 days ago?
Well, I suppose then they could be victim blaming. You've got to give a victim the benefit of the doubt, etc. You've got to take these things seriously.
Which I think we certainly should.
So they're sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place. If they're saying we don't think this incident's taken place now, they're not going to say who the perpetrators were, but they're not going to turn around and say that very early on either, because the worst thing they could do to a woman is deny her story. So I kind of have some sympathy here. But like I said, the whole psychology, the knee-jerk reaction of hearing about a gang rape in a churchyard and people go, I bet we know who did that. That didn't come from nowhere. That didn't come because people are inherently racist. Sure. That has come from, humans naturally pattern seeking. Yeah,
and as I say, my view on this is, and by the way, when they say they've got no descriptions at all, the victim, the alleged victim, must have given them some, however rudimentary. It's a week on. She must have given them some kind of descriptions, at which point they should put it out. So what they're doing is they seem to be doubting her story here.
Well, no, they are, because they're saying that we've got no sort of empirical evidence for it having taken place. Like I said, it's rock and a hard place on this one. I don't know what's gone on, and maybe the police have said, actually, if we turn around and based on this woman's words, I got gang raped by, X, Y, Z, it's going to bring people out into the streets. The people are in the streets anyway because they're so used to being lied to. Again, Starmer, Hermer, that cohort, who the truth to them is an inconvenience. As human rights lawyers, forget the truth. We just need to somehow win the argument. Whatever's true, whatever isn't true, doesn't matter. We can get our way around anything. And that is what they're doing. I watched a series on Netflix or something the other day with David Tennant defending some sort of evil murderer and sort of won the case and thought, oh, aren't I so great? I've defended the evil murderer. He's got off scot-free until, he goes and murders his wife. But this is what a lot, people in the legal profession are there to defend the indefensible, and so it's not a moral standing, it's looking at technicalities and things that are insubmissible and loopholes. So they're divorced from real morality. They're divorced from it, but not when it comes to the court of public opinion. You can't get away with it.
Well, in terms of the complete and utter lawyer Keir Starmer, to go back to him, he's a complete and utter lawyer.
He's so lawyer.
Such a lawyer. How long do you think he's got?
Wow. Technically, minus 6 months. But I don't know. The man is Teflon. But I'll tell you why I think this is. I'm certain that there is a cartel of legal people who've been running the Labour Party for a long time. It goes back to Cherie Blair, Tony Blair, the barrister chambers they set up, matrix chambers, Doughty chambers, chambers. The cartel will decide who's going to be their new frontman. The cartel run things, I'm certain of it. And who does the cartel want if not Starmer? Who else is from that gang? That's what we need to be looking at.
They're going to have a lot of trouble hanging on to him.
Probably blimmin' Herman, mate.
I think he's got... Oh, God.
No, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised. You're probably right.
Yeah.
Alex, fantastic to have you back. Kevin, Alex, we're back, and we're going to do this every Friday.
Yeah, we are.
Thank you very much, Alex Phillips. Let's go to break. When we come back, Simon Dandrup, more on Mandelson. We've got to try to unpick this extraordinary mystery. What the hell is going on? Someone somewhere is telling a massive great pack of lies. In fact, quite a few people, I think, are telling a massive great pack of lies. We'll try to work out exactly who that is. Are you listening, Keir Starmer? That next. Stay tuned.
The world is on fire. Russia, Iran, China, conflicts brewing in all of their different regions. They're not waiting. But here in Britain, our armed forces are underfunded, they're undermanned, and they're underprepared. And nobody in government wants to talk about it. Well, we do. I'm Philip Ingram, and I spent my career in the world of intelligence, military planning, strategic planning, and unfortunately, conflict. This is Talk War, and this is where we analyse the conflicts shaping our world.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Should have said Alex Phillips will be with you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. for her regular show right here on Talk. If you're from Epsom, and you have a view on what's been going on in terms of this alleged rape a week ago, a gang rape, let me know. I've got a very interesting text here from someone called Richard, and I won't go into the details, but he said there is video confirming the event. He says there is from CCTV. I don't know the truth of that, but let me know what you think. Are the police covering up down there? Epsom, let me know. 03444991000. I think it's another one of these situations where somehow or other you feel you're not getting the truth, and we're certainly not getting the truth. There's absolutely no doubt whatsoever that we are not getting the truth about what the hell has happened in terms of Peter Mandelson and the vetting scandal, Ollie Robbins' sudden departure from the Foreign Office, Keir Starmer acting like he's furious. I really didn't know. Is that true? I don't know. Let's talk to someone who knows all about Westminster and its evil ways. He is former Labour MP, now Reform UK, Simon Danjuk. Hello, Simon.
Good to be with you, Kevin.
What the hell is going on? Let's just play. Keir Starmer's over in Paris pretending to open the Strait of Hormuz. He loves to, people say he's flown off to Paris today. It's like, no, he hasn't. He's escaped to Paris. But here he is. I think this is just before his journey. It looks like it's in the back garden of number 10 Downing Street. Here he is being performatively furious. We're going to play that in just a second. But, he says he's furious. He says he wasn't told. So what he's asking us to believe, Simon, is this. Is someone like Ollie Robbins, Sir Ollie Robbins, a career civil servant, on about £300,000 a year. He's going to risk his job. He's going to risk prosecution, to be honest with you. That he receives this information that incredibly, after Mandelson's got the job. He's already in situ in Washington as our ambassador to the United States, measuring up the curtains and all that. Then Ollie Robbins goes, oh my God, I've just got the vetting news. He failed. I know what I'll do with this. I'll keep this a secret from absolutely everyone. I won't tell anyone. I won't tell the Prime Minister. I won't tell the Cabinet. That is frankly utterly implausible, isn't it?
Inconceivable, absolutely inconceivable that the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, did not know that Mandelson had failed the vetting process. He would surely have known this, and that's the reality of the situation. But most importantly, I do think it's a little bit of a red herring, because the bigger point here is that Mandelson made the appointment knowing that Starmer made the appointment. Starmer made the appointment knowing that Mandelson was intimate friends with Epstein, a convicted paedophile. He knew that Mandelson had business interests in China and in Russia. He knew that Mandelson had been sacked in disgrace on 2 previous occasions. We know that Starmer knew that because everybody else knew that. We all knew that. We knew what Mandelson was about. And yet Starmer still saw fit to appoint him, irrespective of the vetting process.
Yeah. Let me put it this way, Simon. If it's true what Starmer is trying to maintain, essentially, that Ollie Robbins got this explosive information, the vetting report, oh my God, Peter Mandelson has failed the security test. If it's true that he got that information and kept it secret from the Prime Minister and the Cabinet, then that's a criminal offence. That's definitely malfeasance in a public office. That's an issue of national security. And I say that in the full knowledge that there's no way Ollie Robbins would have done that. He would not have kept this secret. Dan Hodges from the Mail on Sunday, who's obviously been talking to Number 10, he's just tweeted this. He says, OK, this is getting ridiculous now. Number 10 has also begun claiming Ollie Robbins was precluded by the rules from sharing information on the vetting. As Dan quite rightly goes on to say, well, if so, why did Number 10 sack him? They're now asserting he simply followed the rules. So why was he sacked? Also, if those are the rules, what is the point of the vetting process? You put someone through a vetting process, it goes to some civil servant, some mandarin in Whitehall, and that guy's not allowed to tell anyone. So why bother vetting them? This is just nonsense. This is like stupid little schoolboys' excuses, isn't it?
It makes no sense whatsoever. None of it makes any sense whatsoever. And we know, I think it was Dan Hodges in the Mail on Sunday, but also the Independent, that raised several months ago the idea that Mandelson had failed the vetting. They published that. So why wouldn't Starmer have known if it's actually been in the newspaper? And then the other significant issue here is that Starmer is saying he didn't find out until Tuesday about Mandelson's failure in the vetting process. Now, the problem there for Starmer is that the rules are quite clear for ministers. If they've misled Parliament inadvertently or otherwise, then they have to correct the record at the soonest opportunity. Now, Starmer has said on numerous occasions to Parliament that Mandelson went through a vetting process. Now, why didn't he correct the record on Wednesday at Prime Minister's questions? Exactly. Why didn't he announce? And there's no justification for not having done that. So he's on a real sticky wicket. I think he's really struggling on this, to be honest.
I'd say you're quite right. I mean, we know now that he found out fairly early on Tuesday about all of this, that The Guardian were onto it. And it's significant, by the way, that it's The Guardian newspaper doing this. This goes against the grain for them to attack, if you like, or undermine a socialist prime minister. But to be fair to The Guardian, this is just good journalism. Journalists, in the end, they just want to do journalism, even people on The Guardian. So I think that's what that is about. They know it's a good scoop and they've run it. Starmer knew about it on Tuesday. It's pretty disgraceful that he then went into PMQs in the House of Commons 24 hours later and didn't tell anyone, kept quiet about it. It certainly explains why he lost his temper with the Speaker of the House, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, straight after PMQs. Sir Lindsay, of course, having the temerity to suggest to the Prime Minister that it being called Prime Minister's questions, maybe, just maybe, he could answer the odd question. God, that infuriated Starmer, but I think he was in a very stressed state, knowing what we now know. He was the only one who knew it then. We now all know it. We've got that video now of what I'm going to call performative fury from our Prime Minister. I think this is just ahead of his trip to Paris this morning.
That I wasn't told that Peter Mandelson had failed security vetting when he's appointed is staggering. That I wasn't told that he'd failed security vetting when I was telling Parliament that due process had been followed is unforgivable. Not only was I not told, no minister was told. And I'm absolutely furious about that. What I intend to do is to go to Parliament on Monday to set out all the relevant facts in true transparency so Parliament has the full picture.
Do you want to know something, Simon? The last time we saw this kind of act, this performative anger on the part of the Prime Minister, was when do you remember when he was going, I am absolutely furious that Peter Mandelson lied to me. He lied to me. He lied to me. And then we found out that he didn't ever speak to Peter Mandelson during the entire process. He never spoke to him before he got the job of ambassador to the United States. He lied to me. He didn't lie to you, Piers, because he didn't PM because he didn't speak to you. You see what I mean? It's the same performative, confected fury that frankly sounds like a cover-up. It sounds like he's lying through his pretend angry teeth.
You can't trust a word that Starmer says. And you take what he says there. I mean, just one example from that. He says that no minister knew about the vetting process. Well, how can he know that? He doesn't know what minister has been told what. That's another problem that he has. But the public have lost complete confidence in Starmer. There is no doubt about that. That's why he's so unpopular, because they know he's just lying to them time and time again. Your colleague, actually, Harry Cole, makes an interesting point. The irony is that Ollie Robbins, the permanent secretary at the Foreign Office, has been sacked. He's actually one of the few people who challenged the appointment of Mandelson, and it's ironic that he's the one that's got sacked in all of this. You couldn't make it up.
Well, we're going to go to break now, Simon. I was just going to leave this one rattling around your head. David Maddox, the political editor of The Independent, he's pointing out, this is what David, very good, experienced journalist, former political editor of the Daily Express, of course. This is what was on the effective front page of The Independent. I mean, it's all online now. But this is what David Maddox wrote. Check this out. Last September the 12th. This was the headline. Concerns Mandelson did not pass MI6 vetting for US ambassador role, but Starmer appointed him anyway. This is it. This is the intro. Serious concerns have been raised that the newly sacked US ambassador Peter Mandelson did not clear security vetting for the role, but the Prime Minister pushed through his appointment anyway. Sources have told The Independent that the MI6 failed to clear the Labour peer, largely because of concerns over his business links to China. September the 12th last year. Keir Starmer said, I had no idea. This just isn't stacking up, is it?
No, it's not stacking up at all. And David Maddox, the journalist who broke that story, has today published the messages he had between himself and the Director of Communications at Downing Street at that time. So it's inconceivable that Starmer would not have known that Mandelson had failed the vetting process. Why would civil servants continue to let the Prime Minister come out in public and say that a vetting process had taken place and everything was okay without telling him the truth?
I think
it's inconceivable.
I think David Maddox, he was on earlier with Mark Dolan, is going to play a central role in all this. You can't have a Prime Minister saying, I knew nothing about this when it was on the front page of a national newspaper last September. This is getting murkier and murkier. We better go to break, Simon. Stay where you are. You're going to stick with us.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Loads of calls coming through, loads of WhatsApp voice notes. Let me know what you think about this. I mean, this is getting, literally by the minute, is getting murkier and murkier. David Maddox's splash story in The Independent from last September, just revealing this story. This was the headline. Concerns Mandelson did not pass MI6 vetting for US ambassador role, but Starmer appointed him anyway. This is going to play a central role in Starmer's future. He's the Prime Minister. He can't say, oh, well, I didn't notice it. It's in a newspaper. I mean, more details, more intricate details have come out in the last 24 hours, thanks to The Guardian. But the essential business of Mandelson failing the vetting process, there it is, front page of the Independent on September the 12th last year. So Mandelson, Starmer, you've got to do better than this. I'm still with Simon Danjak, former Labour MP. Simon, before we talk, I've got a voice note. I've got loads of voice notes. Let me know, folks, if you want to send a voice note, 0344 499 1000. You want to send a message, send it to the same number, put 87222 plus talk at the beginning of your message. Here's a voice note from Ricky.
So let me get this right. Starmer is saying that he wasn't told about the vetting not being fully complete and that they just waved off the stuff that he didn't pass. This then leads me to question what's going on. Do we have a Prime Minister that doesn't know what his own government's doing, or even not the government, civil servants who operate for the government? So this either means that the government aren't in control and the civil servants are, or Starmer is naive and gullible and doesn't really delve into anything and goes off people's first words, which would make him a terrible manager in turn, terrible Prime Minister. What's going on? It's ridiculous. It really is.
Ricky, I think speaking for all of us there, Simon, I mean, given what we're hearing now, I think this is a massive development from David Maddox. You can't say you knew nothing about this when it was on the front page of a national newspaper last September. You just can't say that. This is not going to wash. It's not going to work for Starmer. How much longer can he hang on?
I think he's really struggling, I'll be honest. I wouldn't be surprised if he was gone by the end of next week. He's going to come to Parliament on Monday. You make the point that he was furious on Wednesday with the Speaker, Lindsay Hoyle, and that's because he's on the ropes, isn't it? He knows that the time is up. He's going to come to Parliament on Monday, make a statement about this whole issue. He'll obviously be cross-examined by Kemi Badenoch, who's doing considerably better in the chamber these days. And then Monday night, as always, there will be a meeting of Labour MPs. The Parliamentary Labour Party meets every Monday at 6 p.m. I suspect that Labour MPs will be furious with the Prime Minister. I think, and they lose all credibility if they don't question the whole logic about this. I don't think, and it's not going to get better. We're going to run into the weekend. There'll be more revelations over the weekend. He's into Monday. I think he'll struggle to hold on by the end of next week.
That's it. And also, I think a very key event on Monday would be Ollie Robbins has been called before the Foreign Affairs Select Committee. That will be explosive, I think. My view on Ollie Robbins suddenly being sacked, clearly being chosen as the fall guy, thrown under the bus, this is the guy who organised the payoff for Peter Mandelson when Peter Mandelson's tenure as our ambassador came to an abrupt end. Robinson organised the £75,000 payoff, the outrageous £75,000 payoff for a man who'd been sacked in disgrace. Well, now Ollie's been sacked in disgrace, confected disgrace, I would suggest. I wonder what his payoff will be. And I've put this on Twitter today. My suspicion is, or put it this way, there is a chance that this is how events will unfold. He won't say a damn thing to implicate the Prime Minister, but his payoff will be enormous. See where I'm getting at?
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that. Though it's fair to say that some of Ollie Robbins' sympathisers or friends have been coming out and briefing the media, explaining that he's been thrown under the bus inappropriately. And I think there'll be more revelations like that as the next few days go on. I think Storm has got a major problem here now. And he's already lost the confidence of the public, hasn't he? I mean, they decided some time ago that the Prime Minister just can't be trusted. And this is just another example of it. I really don't believe he can survive this scandal.
Yeah, I think the Robbins appearance is going to be absolutely central to the future equation. It strikes me from what Dan Hodges is saying. I suspect that Robbins has been on to number 10 and said, hey, you know, if you think I'm taking the rap for this, you've got another thing coming. So number 10 are now trying to sort of soften the blow by telling journalists, no, Ollie obeyed the rules, at which point we go, well, why did you fire him?
That's exactly right.
So I suspect that when Ollie gets before the Foreign Affairs Select Committee on Monday, the results might be interesting. Last word, Simon, about this row that Starmer, this rather unseemly row that Starmer had with Sir Lindsay Hoyle, the Speaker, after PMQs on Wednesday. I mean, banging the side of the Speaker's head, shouting and screaming at him, because, of course, the Speaker had said, well, you know, Mrs. Badenoch has asked you a question. How about, you know, why not break the habit of a lifetime and answer the question? He hated that. And it transpired afterwards that, in fact, the Speaker's office has been in heated discussions with number 10 for months now about the Prime Minister avoiding every single question. It is an absolute disgrace the way he behaves. He goes in there, Kemi Badenoch asks him 6 questions. He doesn't even begin to answer any of them. He just goes off on a tangent. Well, now we learn, because obviously PMQs next week will be a total nightmare for him. Guess what his idea about that is? He's trying to have them cancelled. This guy's a disgrace.
Yeah, absolutely right. Alan Campbell is Labour MP and leader of the House of Commons, was trying to circumvent the process and get all the legislation brought forward and completed by Tuesday, so that there was no need for Prime Minister's questions on the Wednesday. Now, the House of Lords has rejected that, and PMQs, I think, will still go ahead. But they were attempting, you cannot make this stuff up, they were attempting to get PMQs cancelled this Wednesday. He's doing everything to avoid scrutiny. I mean, that's the reality of it, or he was attempting it. But he has to be held to account, and that's what will happen on Monday, I'm pleased to say.
Well, you'll have to come on Monday, because it's going to be a very interesting day. Simon Danjuk, thank you so much for your time on this incredible occasion. Right, folks, we're going to go to break. Let me know, do you think the Prime Minister will be in position this time next week? Will he still be Prime Minister next Friday? From what Simon was saying, from the story in the Independent from last September, I think he's in serious trouble. This may be a crisis too far for liar Keir Starmer. Next up, we're going to go back to Epsom, find out what the hell's going on with that alleged gang rape. That next, stay tuned.
The world is on fire. Russia, Iran, China, conflicts brewing in all of their different regions. They're not waiting. But here in Britain, our armed forces are underfunded, they're undermanned, and they're underprepared. And nobody in government wants to talk about it. Well, we do. I'm Philip Ingram, and I spent my career in the world of intelligence, military planning, strategic planning, and unfortunately, conflict. This is Talk War, and this is where we analyse the conflicts shaping our world.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to my next guest. We're going to talk about this gang rape in Epsom. He is social policy analyst, Dr. Rakib Ahsan. Hello, Rakib.
Hi, Kevin. How are you?
I'm good. Before we talk, this is Assistant Chief Constable Sarah Graham. That's for local policing down in Epsom. This is a statement she made only about a couple of hours ago about this rape that happened allegedly this time last week, last Saturday it was, very early hours of last Saturday morning. So this is Assistant Chief Constable Sarah Graham.
To date, we have not found any evidence of the offence as reported, but the investigation is ongoing. There has been much speculation about the non-release of a description of any suspects, especially regarding the ethnicity. No descriptions have been released, as the information about the incidents and potential suspects is so limited. To address the specific commentary, there is no evidence that asylum seekers or immigrants were involved.
Well, that's what they're saying today, Rakib. Now, you will have seen, so this gang rape allegedly happened in the early hours of last Saturday morning, so pretty much a week ago. Local community very upset that no descriptions have been issued about any of the alleged assailants, the gang rapers. The suggestion being that it's woke policing and they're sitting on information that may implicate what some people were saying were immigrants and asylum seekers. I can't see how you would in any way leap to that conclusion. My suspicion, and what I assumed the local people were worried about, was this, that the alleged assailants were people of colour. In other words, they weren't white, and that was what the police are worried about. That's what the local people are worried about. In other words, sort of similar to the same syndrome that we encountered after the horrible Southport murders, when the suspect was described as Axel Rudikbala as a Welsh choir boy, a Welsh-born choir boy. That's what seems to be the case. Now, the police are now sort of indicating that they are trying to establish whether this happened or not. That doesn't mean to say they wouldn't have any kind of description. What do you think is going on here, Rakib?
Well, Kevin, it's very hard to say because the waters are very murky at the moment. I think Surrey Police can take a great deal of responsibility for that. To my understanding, that this horrific incident took place over the weekend. So it's been some time since it actually occurred. And I think that it's really important, Kevin, that you mentioned the Southport atrocity, because I pointed out that there's a great deal of anti-Muslim disinformation which was peddled in the aftermath of that horrific atrocity. That there was conspiracy theories which ultimately were advancing the view that the suspect was a Middle Eastern migrant who'd crossed into the UK on a small boat.
That's right.
Which turned out to be wide off the mark. Actually, what we had was a teenager of Rwandan Christian heritage coming from a church-going family, no less. So I think that what's really clear now, a lot of people argue that local police forces, they should have the operational independence to reveal the background of these suspects in this particular crime, etc. But I think what's very clear is that the police takes considerable time especially when it comes to crimes of this nature, in terms of revealing the background of suspects. People are going to speculate. You are going to see the dissemination of conspiracy theories. And actually what would be a lot better is if the police are transparent, especially when it comes to the background of suspects which are involved in this kind of crime. And I think that Surrey police here, I don't think they've managed this particular incident as well as they could have.
Certainly not. I mean, they should be more communicative in these situations.
Absolutely.
And I'm getting a lot of messages from people in the Epsom area who just aren't believing that there isn't any CCTV evidence.
Footage,
One guy actually directing me to some video that you can watch that does indicate that something happened. So this is the suspicion, and this is what that demonstration, that protest was about on Friday night, that this is another case of sort of woke policing where the coppers are reluctant to say the descriptions we've got are of people of colour, people of ethnic origin. They don't like doing that. Because they fear it might stir up kind of racial disquiet. In terms of asylum seekers and immigrants, I don't know how you extrapolate from a potential description of someone who's black or Asian that they're an immigrant or an asylum seeker. I don't know how you get to that point. But again, I think the police are leaping ahead there. They're not really addressing the issue here. My suspicion is the perpetrators or the monsters who did this allegedly are white. Not white, rather.
Well, Kevin, I'd also make this point that in any case, I do think that when it comes to criminal activity, I think there should be greater transparency when it comes to the immigration status. The potential immigration status of suspects, whether they're a foreign national or if they're a British national. And I think ethnicity should come into it as well, in terms of the details that should be revealed, because we need to have a very honest debate in terms of whether if there are certain groups of people who are what you could say disproportionately represented in certain types of criminal activity, especially sexual crimes. Including rape. So I think that we need to have a very honest conversation about those kinds of issues. And I think the police forces need to play their part in collecting that data properly. We saw that there were very serious problems there in terms of adequate data collection when it came to grooming gang activity, especially police forces such as South Yorkshire. And I think that crucially, more generally, police forces need to understand that if they're not transparent over these kind of details, people are going to fill that vacuum, potentially with incorrect information.
Exactly right, Rakib, but it's pretty pathetic. They've taken almost 7 days to come up with
It's a long while.
Yeah, it's just not good enough. Rakib, it's great to have you on the show, as always. Thank you so much for your time. Rakib Eason, their social policy analyst. What do you think? They're taking too long, and what are they talking about? 0344 499 1000. After the break, Lord John Redwood, more on Mandelson, more on the situation, so stick around.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In a little while, we're going to talk to broadcaster and pub landlord Adam Brooks. We're going to get his view on Rachel Reeves. This is extraordinary. If it wasn't for Mandelson, I'd probably make this the biggest story of the day. Apparently, she's blocked further spending on defence because the MOD, the Ministry of Defence, in her view, does not have gender parity. It's sexist. So she said, why should they get more money, you know, when they don't have gender parity? Rachel, what about the security of the nation, the safety of its citizens? I think that's a little bit more important than your juvenile ideology, don't you? We'll talk about that in a little while. First up, though, let's go over to my next guest. We're going to go through some of the big stories, or basically the big story of the day, with former Tory Cabinet Minister Lord John Redwood. Welcome to the show, John.
Hello, Kevin. Yes, interesting to talk about these things.
Yes, it's quite a day. Now, well, look, before we talk, this is Keir Starmer before he headed off on the latest of his pointless foreign trips. He's gone to Paris for some kind of reason that nobody really cares. But he spoke, I think, in the number 10 Downing Street Garden this morning, expressing what I think is performative fury. Have a look at this.
That I wasn't told that Peter Mandelson had failed security vetting when he's appointed is staggering. That I wasn't told that he'd failed security vetting when I was telling Parliament that due process had been followed is unforgivable. Not only was I not told, no minister was told. And I'm absolutely furious about that. What I intend to do is to go to Parliament on Monday to set out all the relevant facts in true transparency so Parliament has the full picture.
John, can I just say something that's cropped up in the last couple of hours? It's you'll be aware of the former political editor of the Daily Express, now I think political editor of the Independent, the online newspaper. He was on Talk, talking to my colleague Mark Dolan just a while ago. He said, listen, I wrote this story last September the 12th. If you go to... There it is. It's there. I've just looked at it. It's David Maddox. It's his exclusive saying that Peter Mandelson failed the vetting process. The details in the story are not quite as intricate as what we now know, thanks to The Guardian. But there's the story, that Peter Mandelson failed the vetting process, the MI6 vetting process for the ambassadorship to the United States. So when Keir Starmer is saying, I had not even the faintest notion, I didn't know, nobody told me, it just doesn't wash, does it? It just does not stack up.
No, of course not. What is unforgivable, Prime Minister, is you making this appointment. I and others gave him free advice at the time, saying, don't appoint this man. We got a perfectly good ambassador who was doing an extremely good job at trying to reconcile the new administration with Trump after all the bad things they'd said about the president. And they wanted to get rid of her and put in this political appointee. And what is unforgivable, Prime Minister, is that you preempted the normal processes. He and the Foreign Secretary had to override formally the normal way that ambassadors are appointed to say, no, there's only one candidate and this is the candidate we want. So then surely the onus was on him to satisfy himself that there were no security or reputational issues which would get in the way of pursuing his choice. And the man he sacked, Ollie Robbins, the senior official, had said to Parliament before he knew he was going to be sacked that this was a prime ministerial political appointment. Well, of course it was. So the duty, Prime Minister, is not on the officials, it is on you to satisfy yourself about your personal appointment. So where was the request for all the information about the background and the security issues of this man? And why hasn't Parliament been showing it? On February the 4th, Parliament passed a solemn motion demanding all the papers. And Alex Burkhardt, on behalf of the Conservative opposition, went out and said particularly They want to see the papers around the actual appointment process and the vetting and all the rest of it. Parliament still hasn't seen those papers. Why not, Prime Minister? Did you not ask any questions? Are there no documents at all? It is very difficult to believe that a clever lawyer like him didn't ask anything and didn't receive any advice.
This is what really truly beggars belief. What we're being asked to believe, this is essentially Starmer's story as it stands now, that Ollie Robbins, Sir Ollie Robbins, a career civil servant, you'll be well aware what these people are like. They're incredibly careful. For them, it's all about process, the correct bureaucracy, putting the T's and the I's in the right place. I'm not criticising that. That's what they should be like. That's what good Whitehall mandarins should be like. Sort of complete slaves to process. So these people. So what Starmer's asking us to believe is this career civil servant on £300,000 a year receives after. Mandelson's got the gig after he's already there, he's already in situ as our ambassador to the United States. He gets the, oh my God, I've got the vetting, he's failed. What I'm going to do with this report is I'm going to keep it secret from the Prime Minister, from the Cabinet. In fact, I'm not going to tell anyone. I mean, that is just ludicrous to suggest that, and yet poor old Sir Ollie has been chucked under the bus, summarily fired last night. I would say a fall guy in Starmer's desperate bid to cling on by his fingernails, maybe for not much longer, but that's what that was. It cannot be true that Ollie Robbins decided to do this unilaterally, to keep secret that Mandelson failed the vetting process.
Well, I trust that Parliament will be able to discuss this with Ollie Robbins, and it'd be very good if he came forward with a statement on his account of what the civil service actually did. But I go back to the fact that this was a political appointment. And so I suspect there must be a formal letter from the Foreign Secretary or the Prime Minister saying they're overriding the normal process. And when you write something like that as a minister, you take responsibility. So you can't get away, Prime Minister, from the fact that whatever you think the civil service did and didn't do and say, you were making the appointment, you had overridden normal processes, so you, Prime Minister, had the responsibility to make sure that the person you had chosen was safe and didn't have any difficult security issues. So why was there no curiosity if there wasn't? Surely there must have been something, and why aren't we seeing any documentation for this normally meticulous man making this crucial decision?
Yeah, as you say, Keir Starmer, what he's asking us to believe is that he just didn't question at all why he hadn't seen any vetting results for Mandelson. Wasn't interested. It's just all of it beggars belief. So someone somewhere is hiding the truth. There's no doubt about this. We do not know the truth. And most people, a poll has just come out, John, you'll be interested in this. This is YouGov, saying that just 16% of British citizens think Keir Starmer has been honest about Peter Mandelson's appointment process. In other words, 84% think the Prime Minister is lying. He needs to do... My point to the Prime Minister is this. And I'm sure you agree, John, most of us, Prime Minister, think you are lying. We suspect you are lying, and so far it's your job to prove to us you are not. You're our damn leader, for God's sake. We don't want a liar as a leader. It's your job to explain to us, to prove to us you're not lying, and so far you have not done that. So you remain in the minds of the people of this country a barefaced liar. That's not good enough for a Prime Minister, is it, John?
No, it's a very uncomfortable position for him to be in, and it's one that he's created for himself. And again, this week, he now tells us he first knew this vital piece of information on Tuesday. He stands up before Parliament for more than half an hour, not answering questions on other subjects on Wednesday. And he could at any point during that said, by the way, I found something out that means I've got to modify a former answer I gave, and I will get back to you, even if he wasn't prepared to tell us outright what it was. But he didn't do that. So he didn't take the first available opportunity, as a minister should do, to correct or fill out the record. But there's this bigger great gap, and that is that since February the 4th, we've seen very, very few documents about this huge process, which must have gone on to make an unusual political appointment and go into it in enough depth, because it was such a crucial appointment to make with a man with such a checkered past, that we do feel there's a lot more to come out. So, Prime Minister, you say you want to be transparent on Monday. Well, that would be great. You haven't been transparent on all this up till now. So on Monday, will you also bring all the documents we haven't seen? Because then we can make our own minds up.
I would say, John, obviously when Starmer goes into the Commons on Monday, it's going to be a pretty explosive situation. But I think his future will hinge on Ollie Robbins, who on Monday as well has been called to testify to the Foreign Affairs Select Committee. Now, whatever Sir Ollie says, I think, will define the future for the Prime Minister. And if he says, listen, I told the Prime Minister and I did tell the Cabinet, I did not keep this a secret, it's going to, if he says that, it's going to be very hard to see how the Prime Minister can carry on, isn't it?
Well, of course. I mean, if Ollie Robbins said there's a direct lie and that he told him, then it's really all over Starmer. But if Ollie Robbins says something a bit different from that, and he's obviously a very careful performer in these events, it doesn't get the Prime Minister off the hook, because these issues you and I have been talking about remain. Why hasn't he put all the documents out already? Why didn't he satisfy himself on this crucial issue? Doesn't he understand only he is responsible for the appointment of Mandelson, because he overrode, and I'm sure the officials didn't originally want it to happen. They were quite happy with the perfectly good ambassador we had in post, who was doing a very good job for us.
Absolutely. Let me play a clip to you, John. This is the leader of the Tory party, Kemi Badenoch, talking on this very issue earlier.
Keir Starmer's position is untenable. The Prime Minister is putting his own interest before the national interest. He has misled Parliament and he has misled the country on a matter of national security. Nothing is more serious. He is not fit to govern.
Now, it's not often, John, that you get the leader of the Tory party, the leader of the Lib Dem party, the leader of Reform UK, the leader of the Greens and the leader of the Scottish National Party in unison. They are all united on one issue, that all of them have said, you must go, Keir Starmer, you must resign. I mean, it really is building up to some kind of tipping point, isn't it? He can't go on like this.
Well, only if Labour MPs think he's got to go, because they got such a huge majority because of the way the election worked out in 2024, that there is no motion that any party can bring to Parliament other than Labour that can bring him down. But they could bring him down today if they wanted to, because they could just simply tell their whips they're no longer going to have any confidence in him, or they could table a motion on Monday and say we don't have confidence in the Prime Minister. But they're not going to do that. They've got to be shamed into doing it, and this is where the public polling is very important, as well as the remarkable unity amongst the leaders of the opposition parties. But this is a very big scandal. This is something on a new proportion about prime ministerial incompetence or lying, depending on which side of the argument you take. And even on the incompetence side, it is monumental and completely unacceptable, because it means we had a Prime Minister who took enormous risks with the national security of this country to put a friend into a very important job that he needn't have done.
Exactly right. It's an extraordinary situation, and I hope you come on next week to discuss it, because I have this suspicion that the next few days could be rather eventful. Lord John Redwood, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you very much for your time. Lord John Redwood there with his views. I mean, do you think, let me know what you think. I got this suspicion. Well, put it this way. I'd be kind of surprised if Keir Starmer's still in position this time next week. It's all very well to say, oh, well, you know, other Labour MPs have got to vote him down and all that, but this is building up with a real head of steam to a point where this guy he's on the edge of being exposed as a barefaced liar. Nigel Farage saying he lied to the House and he lied to the people of this country. If all of this becomes evidently true, he's got to go. He'll have to. It doesn't matter whether or not Labour MPs have got anyone lined up to replace him. He'll just have to resign. I mean, you know, in the end, you cannot carry on like this. He's got to go for the sake of the country, for his own sake. Look at him, poor guy. He looks haunted. He looks ruined. He looks finished. I think he is finished. Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. You can send me a WhatsApp voice note if you like. We've got lots of those to play out. In the meantime, let's talk to Dan in Cambridgeshire. Dan, what do you reckon?
Oh, hello, Kevin. Yeah, lovely show. I love listening to you. Thanks for keeping us all sane.
Doing my best in a very, very mad world, Dan. But what do you reckon on Mandelson? What's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, Sakir, he's going to have to go, isn't he? We all talk about HR and him being human rights. I think he actually needs to speak to human resource after he speaks to the Parliament on Monday, and because surely he's going to have to be sacked for gross misconduct for all the mistakes that he's made, and also the abuse he was giving towards Sir Lindsay Hoyer as well. I mean, surely they've got a zero tolerance in.
Well, I think you're allowed to shout at the Speaker if you want. I mean, it's seen as a parliamentary indiscretion, but it's not a sort of sacking offence. But of course, we now know, Dan, that the reason that he was so on edge, shouting and screaming, banging the Speaker's chair, was that he had known for 24 hours that The Guardian was on to this vetting scandal. That Peter Mandelson had failed his vetting process. The Prime Minister is claiming he didn't know that, only found out on Tuesday. Why didn't he tell the House on Wednesday, do you think? Why did he keep it a secret on Wednesday?
I just don't know if he was just thinking, well, if I keep it quiet and if I disappear off to France, perhaps no one will talk about it. But again, another mistake. I mean, he seems to be... He just doesn't seem to be able to know when to make the right decision. And obviously that's not a good sign for a Prime Minister or a leader of the country. And another reason why, he's out of his depth and he needs to be saying au revoir to him.
He's so out of his depth, Dan. You're so right. I mean, he's the man in the wrong job. This country's falling apart at the seams. Our democracy is disintegrating before our very eyes. Nobody respects the police anymore. They don't do their jobs properly. Every member of the cabinet is pretty useless. I mean, everything is going wrong. It's this government, it's this Prime Minister. We need something else. We need something new. But God knows. Otherwise, this government is driving this country to hell in a handcart. It really is. It's terrifying. Dan, very good call, though. Thanks for ringing. Call me again. Dan in Cambridgeshire. Got loads of voice notes. Let's play a couple, shall we? Here's Zoe on Keir Starmer.
Slithering, slimy, sluggy Starmer and his odious little helpers. They're absolutely sliming the way, leaving God knows what slug trails all around 10 Downing Street. They've done the classic, issued out a holding statement, given themselves some more time, they think, and then in the meantime, dripping out new statements, seen complete lies, absolute lies, seeing if anything will take hold and stick before he has to face the music on Monday. Utter disgrace. He should have some dignity and leave now.
Yeah, well said, Zoe. Not sitting on the fence there, Zoe, was she? She alluded there to another thing we should bring into the equation, not forget. So this time yesterday, the story, the Guardian's bombshell story, explosive exclusive, that, Mandelson had failed the vetting process, and with all the details. It took Downing Street 2 hours to come up with one statement, a little paragraph saying the Prime Minister did not know that Peter Mandelson failed the vetting process. Well, he should have read the independent newspaper, shouldn't he, last September when it was on the front page. I mean, come on. It's insulting our intelligence. That's what's going on now. This guy, he's like a kid. You know, the dog ate my homework, as Alex Phillips said earlier. You know, we're not buying it anymore, Starmer. Don't insult our intelligence. Tell us what's going on. Someone somewhere is telling a pack of lies here, and we suspect it's the Prime Minister. Let's listen to a second voice note. This is Michael again on the Prime Minister.
States feel that we're sending them somebody with who's been vetted and has failed a vetting process. The word ambassador, that's the opposite of an ambassador who we sent them. How must they feel? And how must old Trumpy boy feel? They must be miffed that we're sending such an ambassador to them. The whole thing's a disgrace.
Miffed is one word for it. Yeah, Trump was not happy. Not happy at all. You know, we foisted upon America a guy, you know, a toe rag, basically, who had no right to be doing that job. A sort of little slime ball, scandal-ridden loser. Peter Mandelson. Why? You know, that's the other mystery, isn't it? Let me know what you think. If you've got any theories, I'd be fascinated to hear. Because at the root of this, at the bottom of this, someone somewhere, a cabal of people, no doubt, we think, led by Morgan McSweeney and Matthew Doyle, were desperate to get Mandelson into that job in Washington. Desperate. Absolutely maniacally desperate to get Mandelson into the job of ambassador to the United States of America. Why? Why the big obsession? OK, we know it. You know, he's a mate of Blair, and Blair wanted to have some influence, and it was the old school trying to keep their hand in. OK, fine. And Keir Starmer, to be fair to him, he never liked Mandelson. He didn't really want him to have the job. But he just, you know, he went with the flow. He said, all right, I'll go with the flow. So he just went along with it to stay mates with Blair. All Labour people have to stay mates with Blair. But, you know, it still doesn't explain this absolute mania for getting Mandelson into that job. Why do you think they were so desperately, madly, furiously keen to get Mandelson into that job as ambassador to the United States? Why? Have you got any theories? 0344 499 1000. We'll take a break from Starmer when we come back. We'll talk about Rachel Reeves, his Chancellor. And this story, again, beggars belief. Absolutely staggering story. We'll talk about that after these messages. Stay tuned.
world is on fire. Russia, Iran, China, conflicts brewing in all of their different regions. They're not waiting. But here in Britain, our armed forces are underfunded, they're undermanned, and they're underprepared. And nobody in government wants to talk about it. Well, we do. I'm Philip Ingram, and I spent my career in the world of intelligence, military planning, strategic planning, and unfortunately, conflict. This is Talk War, and this is where we analyse the conflicts shaping our world.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Keep your calls coming in, 0344 499 1000. If you prefer, send me a WhatsApp voice note on the same number, or you can text me 0344 499 1000. You can send it to 87222. Write Talk at the beginning of your message. But let me know why you think they were so anxious to get Peter Mandelson into this job, the ambassador of the United States, and why, or who the hell is telling the truth, who is lying, what the hell is going on. If you've got any theories, I'd be fascinated to know. 0344 499 1000. Let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk. Right, let's go over to my next guest. He is Adam Brooks, broadcaster, writer, pub landlord. Hi, Adam. How you doing, man?
I'm good, Kev. You?
I'm all right. Well, listen, I want to talk to you about Rachel Reeves, because this story, my jaw dropped when I read it. But we'll get to that in a minute. I need to get your thoughts on the Mandelson vetting scandal. What the hell is going on? What's your theory? I mean, Ollie Robbins, the senior civil servant, the Foreign Office Mandarin, 300 grand a year. He's taken the rap. He's been sacked, thrown under the bus. Keir Starmer saying, I knew nothing about it. I didn't know Mandelson had failed the vetting process, nor did anyone in the cabinet. Well, I'll tell you what, Adam, they should have read the front page of The Independent last September the 12th, when they revealed he'd failed the vetting process. They all knew. It was in the papers. Do you think Keir Starmer is lying through his teeth again?
Yeah, he's got a history of lying through his teeth as well. Let's remember, when the Mandelson story first broke, he said that he didn't know the true relationship between Mandelson and Epstein. Yet in 2024 or 2025, I believe, the Times again had a big front page with all the pictures and all the details about Mandelson's relationship with Epstein. So for him to claim otherwise, he was lying then. He's lying now. David Maddox, who put the front page of The Independent together last year, he broke this story. Are you telling me that Number 10 don't read the papers? They watch all the programmes. They have someone monitoring all the news. They know what's going on. I'm just sick of the lies, because he's not just lying to Parliament and his colleagues. He's lying to the British public, and we're sick of it. This country, you said it earlier, is going to ruins. Now, society is breaking down. Crime is rising at record paces. Our economy is just completely messed up. Small businesses like mine, you know, we just want to survive over the next 2 years, let alone grow or take more people on. We are in such a mess, and I think the public have had enough. There was one poll, Kev, that said 16% of the public believe Keir Starmer over this man.
In other words, 84% think he's lying.
Right. So look, the people know they can't pull the wool over our eyes. He's a liar. And if he doesn't know the answer, he changes the question. Like we see in Prime Minister's question times, he won't answer a question. He's a typical lawyer, typical barrister that knows how to deflect and knows how to get away. But what I think here is the lies. It's not just the acts. The lies are going to get him in trouble, and it's going to be worse. Because what I'm being told, if they found out on Tuesday that this was the case, they have a parliamentary...
well, the PMQs on Wednesday.
They should have done it on PMQs on Wednesday. The reason they didn't is for you know, that they know that, but they've broke the ministerial code by not doing that on Wednesday. So this is another breach. I mean, it's just mess after mess. I don't believe a word he says. I don't believe a word Labour says. But can I just read you a tweet from 2022 that Angela Rayner said?
All right.
I've quote tweeted this. She says, Boris Johnson will happily hang the last civil servant out to dry before he takes responsibility or does the right thing. Fresh from throwing junior staff under the bus, he's plotting to sacrifice his henchmen to save his own skin. Rotten to the core. Now, come on.
I think we should ask Morgan McSweeney, Matthew Doyle and now Sir Ollie Robbins what they think about that, because we have a Prime Minister throwing officials under the bus like there's no tomorrow to save his own sorry skin. You're right, Adam, you're right. Let me ask the people. Look, you're right, I'm sick of the lying. Everybody, are you sick of the lying? 0344 499 1000. Well said, Anne. Let's move on to this other extraordinary story concerning the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, who's making a real screw-up of the economy. Now, defence of the realm is obviously a crucial issue right now. We need much more money to bolster our feeble military defences, our armed forces. Chancellor Rachel Reeves has reportedly balked at the idea of giving the Ministry of Defence any more money because she says that department does not have gender parity. She's quoted as telling officials, "Why should we give money to a department that is so far away from gender parity?" This is about the defence of the realm. This is about building up our severely depleted armed forces, our military supplies. She is prioritising her own juvenile student activist ideology. You know, there's not enough equality over the defence of the nation and the safety of British citizens. That is extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, look, we all appreciate the women in our life, whether it be our daughters or our wives or our mothers. But let's just remember who puts their life mainly on the line for our country. Who are the ones that get slaughtered on foreign battlefields and whatever? It's men. So, look, I don't know what she's talking about here really with this, but our armed forces need as much money as they can. But that can't happen, can it, Kev? Because she keeps increasing benefits for everyone in this country. The welfare and benefits bill, as we spoke about last week, it now it doesn't dwarf, but it's now higher than the income tax revenue of this country. We cannot go on like that. And I fear when she's got a stupid mentality like this, and as you say, it's like sixth form college. It's
juvenile. It's silly little student activist ideology. Let me just quote to you, Adam. This is Shadow Defence Secretary James Cartledge. He said of this extraordinary story, "It is hard to believe that the Chancellor is denying the vital funding the MOD needs because there are too many men in the army. But this story does underscore what we are now seeing, a daily briefing war over the defence investment plan." So Cartledge is right. This is a Chancellor of the Exchequer who doesn't want to put any more money into the armed forces because she thinks there are too many men and not enough women in the army, in the navy, in the air force, in the military.
Let's ask Rachel Reeves if she wants to sign up women to go to the front line and get slaughtered by drones and mines, Kev. Come on, look,
I'm with you there, Adam, but I don't care whether there are men or women or what the numbers are. The point is, this is her saying they don't have gender equality in the army, in the navy, in the air force, therefore they can't have any money at a time like this when the world is almost at war. That is an abrogation of duty on her part, if you ask me.
We've shown the world, Kev, that we are not a powerhouse, a military powerhouse anymore. Keir Starmer's managed to embarrass us so badly and highlight our weaknesses to the whole world. Our Navy couldn't even get to the Middle East. When we did get a boat there or a ship there, it broke down. Our maintenance yards and our knacker yards are full of our ships. What happens if the Falklands decide to go and take those islands back? We cannot defend them. Our Navy is not fit for service. And you can't let off the Conservatives for this. That is years of Conservative ruin as well. But Labour have turbocharged it over the last 2 years. We need serious change, as you said to your last guest. In the next 2 years or 3 years when there's an election, we need to seriously cut the benefits. And no one wants to deny real disabled people or real needy out of their money. But we cannot keep giving the money to people with anxiety or ADHD. I've got someone like that in my own family. My son, he goes out and works while he's at college. He's a hard-working boy. We need that mentality now for the whole country, not benefits. Oh, the state's going to give you pocket money each week. And that is where we're failing. And it's woke idiots like the Chancellor that are just going to turbocharge this and further our demise, Kev.
Yeah, absolutely, Adam. One more time, I'm going to put this to the audience. What do you think about a Chancellor of the Exchequer at this point in the history of the world, where the world is teetering on the edge of global conflict? It has been revealed, exposed, that we in Britain have seriously depleted armed forces. We are militarily weak and feeble. Our armed forces, our defence needs more money. The Chancellor of the Exchequer doesn't want to give the Ministry of Defence any more money because she says that the armed forces don't have enough gender parity. Not enough women. I mean, come on, everybody. Let me know what you think about that. 0344 499 1000. Adam, great to have you on the show, mate. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend. Adam Brooks there, broadcaster, writer, pub landlord as well. Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll take some of your calls. Stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're going to take some calls in just a second. I've got more voice notes. This is Brian on Mandelson.
Never trust anyone that doesn't know what a woman is and has to ask the Attorney General to confirm what a woman is. Because if they'll lie about basic biology, they will lie about anything. Sad days for this country, mate. He's got to go. Cheers.
Well said, Brian. Kelvin on Mandelson.
When I go to Parliament on Monday, I'm going to tell a pack of lies to get myself out of it. There is no way they're going to pin this on me. I'm Keir Starmer. I'm Teflon Starmer. I'm untouchable. You should have got that by now. You're all doomed, especially when we go back into the EU. I'm going to stitch you up right good and proper.
That's very funny, Kevin. It may well be the worst ever Starmer impression I've ever heard, but I get the point. Very funny. Thank you very much. Right, let's go to the phones.
That's his Keir Starmer. He talks like that, doesn't he? The nasal night. I talk. I'm in Paris sorting out the Strait of Hormuz. I'm leading the negotiations for Britain. I have taken the statesman-like decision to escape to France when I'm in trouble at home, and this time next week I'm going to be taking a holiday for the rest of my life. Right, let's go to Miranda in Cumbria. Hi, Miranda.
Hello, how are you?
I'm all right. What would you like to say?
Well, basically, nobody's mentioned Jonathan Powell in all this.
The chief security officer or whatever he's called, yeah?
Security advisor, yeah. And he's friends with basically the previous Labour Prime Minister, it was Tony Blair.
Yeah. So Jonathan Powell's been in Downing Street since 1842. He's always there. Things may come and things may go. Scandals may happen and scandals may go, but Jonathan Powell goes on forever.
And if he was Chief Security Advisor, surely to God he knew about Mandelson and the fact that the red flag had been sent up, and he's always with McSweeney. He's always with Starmer. He's almost like his handler. So I don't believe any of it. I really don't.
Well, he's an interesting character, isn't he? He was up to his neck in the Chagos deal, so he's got questions.
Absolutely, full of sand.
Yeah. Look, I'll tell you, Miranda, the problem with Westminster, Downing Street, and for that matter, the House of Commons MPs, there's two problems with it. Too many of them are lawyers. There's way too many lawyers in the House of Commons. Way too many politicians are lawyers. Because lawyers just love the sound of their own voice. They don't really care what they're saying, as long as they can hear themselves saying something. So you've got all these legal windbags in there. And the other problem, and this is where Jonathan Powell comes in, Westminster, Downing Street, Whitehall is stuffed with public school educated Oxford University twits.
Absolutely. And I do think
they're just twits. They're useless.
They're useless, but they like money. And I think
we all do, though. But yeah, I mean, who knows? You usually follow the money. I mean, that's what, Miranda, it's interesting you say that, because I am searching for the life of me for some kind of reason for this Mandelson debacle. Why were they so desperate to get him in to Washington? Why? I mean, enthusiasm to get him the job is one thing, but this was like a kind of desperate, maniacal attempt to get this guy into Washington. No matter what happened, he failed the vetting process. Get him in there anyway, and so on and so on. So, as you're implying, follow the money. Maybe there's some money involved here. I don't know, but it's incredibly murky. Do you think, Miranda, before you go, thanks for calling, by the way, do you think Keir Starmer is lying?
I do.
Everybody does.
It's every word that comes out of his mouth is fallacious.
Yeah.
If it's actually stood there and he hadn't been reading from a script earlier on and shown some passion, or maybe you could have thought he had some integrity, but he didn't. It was somebody handed him a piece of paper and he stood like a robot and
it's like this, isn't it? It says here, I'm absolutely furious that I wasn't told that PD. I mean, come on. Miranda, excellent call. Have a lovely weekend. Thank you for ringing. Miranda in Cumbria. Let's go to Tony in West Sussex. Hi, Tony.
Hi, Kevin. Good evening. A quickie for you. I think the police should be involved in this particular event. They should be investigating whether Ollie Robbins is a liar or not.
Exactly.
Did he tell the Prime Minister or not? Because if he is under question by the police and says, I'm sorry, but I did tell the Prime Minister, then it's all over for...
Which might happen, Tony, on Monday, because he's being called to testify to the Foreign Affairs Select Committee. So he might say that. If he does, then I think Starmer's absolutely finished. I think his career...
if he does, Starmer is absolutely dead in the water.
But I know what you... By the way, what you said at the beginning, I have alluded to that. I said this earlier about Ollie Robbins. First of all, I've got to say, I don't believe for a second that Ollie Robbins, a very careful career civil servant on 300 grand a year, got this information. Oh my God. Turns out that Peter Mandelson has failed the security vetting process to become ambassador to the United States of America. I know what I'll do with this. I'll keep it a secret. I'll just put it in my pocket. I won't tell anyone. I don't believe that for a second. But let's just suppose that that is what happened, that for some reason Ollie Robbins decided unilaterally not to tell the Prime Minister or the Cabinet about a very important issue of national security.
I don't believe it.
Let's just suppose he did decide that. As you say, that would be a clear case of malfeasance in public office.
Correct.
That would be a criminal offence. He would be prosecuted.
Yep. And somebody once said, I think he was a writer of plays, the truth will out.
Yeah. And the other thing that I believe that Keir Starmer should bear in mind is that old maxim, oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. It's true. You tell a lie, soon you have to tell another lie to cover up for that one, and then it all gets out of control. I think Starmer is lost in a world of lies. Excellent call, Tony. Excellent call. Thank you for ringing. Ring me again. Tony in West Sussex. Before we go to break, I've got this is Sir Richard Dearlove. He's the former head of MI6. He's a regular guest on Talk. Good guy. He says, this is about Starmer. The whole of his career reeks of a lack of integrity. One could have anticipated in advance there would be probably advice from a vetting department not to grant him this. I cannot believe the Permanent Secretary didn't ring up his minister, who he sees every day, and say, look, we have a problem. The idea you don't tell this is quite frankly rubbish. You don't tell them the reasons why they are being rejected. So he's talking about Mandelson. The whole of his career reeks of a lack of integrity. And he's saying, you know, that the idea that someone like Robinson, or that a permanent secretary like Ollie Robinson, will keep this information secret. This is Richard Dearlove, former head of MI6. The idea that you don't tell anyone this is quite frankly rubbish. It is rubbish, isn't it? As I keep saying, someone somewhere is telling a pack of lies. 86% of the country think that that person, that perpetrator of a pack of lies, is the Prime Minister. So Keir, if you're out there, if you're not off on one of your foreign jaunts that you love taking so much, you need to explain to us, you need to come up with a profoundly good reason why you're not lying. Because nobody believes you. Nobody believes you. It's no good you just going, I'm absolutely furious that I wasn't told. When you say that, nobody believes you. So why? Why? Explain to us why it is you're not lying, because you haven't done so far. And if you cannot prove you were not lying, get the hell out of Dodge. We don't want you in our lives anymore. In fact, we don't want you in our lives anyway, but that's another issue. Let's go to break. When we come back, sport with Mike Hampstead from The Sun. Can't wait.
The world is on fire. Russia, Iran, China, conflicts brewing in all of their different regions. They're not waiting. But here in Britain, our armed forces are underfunded, they're undermanned, and they're underprepared. And nobody in government wants to talk about it. Well, we do. I'm Philip Ingram, and I spent my career in the world of intelligence, military planning, strategic planning, and unfortunately, conflict. This is Talk War, and this is where we analyse the conflicts shaping our world.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Mike Hampson from The Sun is in the studio. We're going to go through some of the sports, some great football coming up over the weekend. I was talking to Darren Bent, our friend here on Talk Sport yesterday, big Arsenal fan, former England player, of course. And he said that he has, in terms of this match, he's an Arsenal fan, Man City against Arsenal. He said he's never been so nervous about a game in his entire life. It's the big one, isn't it?
This is massive, yeah. I mean, look, we sometimes... all of us are guilty of overhyping some football matches, but this one is difficult to overhype this one. I mean, this is massive. You know, Man City, game in hand, win this, they're within 3 points, and then obviously win the game in hand, they're level pegging with Arsenal. And this is Arsenal who have been leading the charge and potentially looking like they could bottle it. So Pep's come out today, he says one of the biggest things we're facing is we've got to fight 22 years of hurt from Arsenal.
22 years of hurt.
This is sort of, it's kind of like, it's like the Alex Ferguson rhetoric he used to always use to talk about mind games, which I think Pep has slowly been tapping away with these mind games for the last few weeks.
He's a great player of mind games.
He knows it. He's been in the Premier League for 10 years now. He knows how it works. He's faced them all. So they're just tapping away like that. And he knows that Arsenal, you know, he's living rent-free in Arsenal's head, basically.
Yeah. His favourite trick, isn't it, is after a match, he'll run up, get the opposition's most valuable striker, put his arm around, chat to them, and the next day, is he going to be transferred? Man City,
of course.
He loves all that.
Yeah. And then he can just come out and say, well, I just admire them as a player and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's great fun. Look, this is absolutely the biggest sporting event of the weekend, massive Prem game. So bring it on. Let's see where we are on Sunday night.
I mean, technically, it doesn't decide it, but I think it sort of does, doesn't it?
You're right. Technically, it doesn't. Look, I don't know what Darren Bent said. I wasn't listening at the time. But if you're an Arsenal fan,
he said it's been on the Northern Line last night, so it wasn't broadcast.
Oh right, this is off air.
We're
strictly
on the
off air. Yeah. But I mean, Arsenal fans, would you take a draw now? You would, right?
Yeah.
I bet there's some Arsenal staff who'd be like, no, we'll only go for the 3 points. That's all we do. But I feel like they would take a draw now. That would be a very, very good result. So are they going to park the bus?
Well, I think it would be a mistake, but I bet they try to. You know what they're like.
Can you park the bus against Haaland and Semenyo and Shirky and all these other great players? Bernardo Silva, which is his last big title season. He's off at the end of the season, so...
I love these games. It's so fascinating, isn't it? Another fascinating game at the other end of the table. Spurs host Brighton and Hove Albion, of course, tomorrow at 5:30. If they lose that, Spurs will be in deep trouble, won't they?
Well, I think they already are in deep trouble. I think if you lose that's a bad loss. It's his first home game, De Zerbi. He's facing his old team. There's a real quirk with this one. No manager has ever been involved in the same fixture in their first two debuts as a manager. So his first game for Brighton was at home to Tottenham. He lost 1-0, and now his first Tottenham game is at home to Brighton. So he needs to change a bit of history there. Look, the fans have been on their backs there. Presumably they'll get behind the manager. Later kick-off in the day, people have a couple of beers before. Let's get into it. Let's get behind the team. But if Brighton go and get an early goal, could be a lot of pressure on the Spurs team. And don't forget they're without Romero at the back, the Argentinian star defender. So there's a lot of pressure on him.
Let's just because you're here, let's talk about Monday. Crystal Palace, West Ham.
Oh, it's a long way away.
Yeah. But, you know, don't have to talk about that.
Yeah, don't make me talk about West Ham every time. Come on.
But you've got, you got Spurs. You've got Notts Forest against, Burnley have finished, but Notts Forest.
Yeah. Can't say Notts Forest.
Nottingham Forest.
Yeah. Get in big trouble for that,
sports guys always say that. I say it to annoy Notts Forest fans. Nottingham Forest, OK. So you got that game, got West Ham. So, again, all to play for at the bottom of the table.
Well, West Ham will know by Sunday night what they've now got in front of them. So Leeds had a great win at Man United Monday. That's kind of dragged them a few points clear. I think Nottingham Forest are the interesting ones at the moment. I mean, obviously, look, Spurs is the big story at the bottom, don't get me wrong, but Forest are the interesting ones because Forest are kind of picking up a couple of points here and there. They're doing all right, but they've now got this double header against Villa in the Europa League semi-finals.
Yeah.
And you can't get to that stage of the tournament and say, oh, we'll just give up. You're playing against English opposition.
So you can't play your C team. You've got to play.
Yeah, so that's 2 big games come back to back bang in the middle of this relegation scrap, and they're a bit thin, the squad. You know, Chris Wood's only just come back, a couple of injuries, so that's going to really affect their season. Now, I think if you're the manager of Pereira, I mean, what would you do? You could win the Europa League and get relegated, or do you bin off the Europa League and all your fans go, well, we worked all the way to semi-final, but stay. That's a very tricky conundrum to be in. So,
when the Europa League and get relegated, so the manager can say it's been a bittersweet season.
Yeah, exactly, certainly.
Right, talking to Man United, defensive crisis for Michael Carrick. What's going on?
Yeah, so Man United, who are sort of quietly ticking over. I know they lost to Leeds on Monday. Quietly
Chelsea,
ticking
of course,
over.
tomorrow.
Yeah, massive game against Chelsea. So when we've got Chelsea protests before the game, so might be more lively off the pitch than on it. So Man United have got for the first 4 first-choice centre-backs out. So Harry Maguire banned, Lisandro Martinez banned, Matthias de Ligt been out injured for a long time. Lenny Yoro, we think, is injured as well. We've got to get this confirmed, but it doesn't look like he's travelled down. So their first choice centre-back for this game is Aidan Heaven, Arsenal kid they took from him a couple of years ago. So he's pretty inexperienced. I've got no idea sitting who's going to play next to him. It might be Luke Shaw playing centre-back. Traditionally, he's a left-back.
I think Aidan Heaven's parents have got a sense of humour.
I think so.
Made in heaven.
Yeah. I mean, Heaven helped Michael Carrick. It's that's.
I was on The Sun, your newspaper, many decades ago, and the showbiz reporter for a while was a guy called Philip Phillips, and we all said he was hated from an early age.
Yeah. Well, my favourite football manager of all time, is just a curveball, was Wolfsburg once appointed a manager called Wolfgang Wolf, and I'm sure if he got down to the last 2 of that job interview and he's against Dave Smith, and Wolfgang Wolf is sitting in front of Wolfsburg's president, he's going to get the nod, right?
Yeah, no, exactly right. Well, quickly, before we go, Mike, snooker's back. What's going down?
It'd be remiss of me not to talk about snooker. World Championship starts tomorrow at the Crucible. It's staying at the Crucible, which is great news. They're always talking about would they move it abroad or whether. So, the curse of the Crucible, which I'm sure you know about, Kev, but this is basically no first-time champion has ever defended it.
Is that right?
Yeah, in 47 years, that's the Crucible curse. So Zhao Xingtong, the Chinese world champion, defending world champion, I don't think he really knew about this when it was raised yesterday, but he is going to try and go and break the Crucible curse. But obviously he's got the likes of Ronnie O'Sullivan, Judd Trump and all the other superstars in front of him. So bring it on. It's a great 3 weeks at the Crucible. So, and Rob Moore, who's our superb snooker correspondent, will be
Excellent. Well, that's all going to be in the Sun tomorrow. Big weekend of sport. Of course, we missed the big game. Should have talked about this. Brentford, Fulham, 12:30 tomorrow. Obvious away win for the Whites. So I'll be watching that. I'll probably be about the only person who is. But excellent. Thank you very much to Mike Amstead for an excellent sports review. All in the back pages of the Sun tomorrow. When we come back after the news, the 6 o'clock news, we're going to talk to Jake Wallace-Simons. Obviously going to talk about Mandelson, we'll talk about Rachel Reeves, but we do need to talk about what's going on with the Strait of Hormuz. Iran now saying it's open. It's all looking pretty good in the Middle East, so we'll find out what's going on from Jake. All of that next after the news. Stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. You know that Epsom case, the alleged rape about a week ago, the poor woman apparently gang raped outside a Methodist church in that very well-to-do town of Epsom to the west of London. Surrey police saying the suspects are not immigrants or asylum seekers. Stalk has sent me a message saying, stupid question, but how do Surrey police know the suspects in the alleged Epsom rape are not immigrants or asylum seekers if no one has been arrested and they don't have any descriptions? It's a really good point, isn't it? How do they know? Let me know. As I say, if you're from Epsom, give me a call about that. How do the police know that, you know, they're sort of implying maybe they're trying to establish exactly if this rape actually happened. So the victim has gone to the police, so they're trying to establish if it actually happened. But they're saying it wasn't immigrants or asylum seekers. Well, if they've got no evidence, they say they haven't got enough evidence to give us any descriptions. How do they know? Very good point from Stalk. 03444 991,000. Right, let's go through some of the big stories of the day. Well, mainly the main big story of the day, Mandelson, but we also need to talk about the situation in the Middle East. Who better to do so than with author and columnist, author of Never Again, How the West Betrayed the Jews and Itself, and author of Israelophobia, the newest version of The Oldest Hatred and What to Do About It, Jake Wallace-Simons. Welcome, Jake.
Hi, good afternoon.
Well, look, let's talk about Mandelson first. Let me ask you a straight question. You'll be all across all of the almost confusing developments. There's almost a new development every 5 minutes at the moment. Let's cut to the chase. There's been a YouGov poll this afternoon revealing that 86% of the population think that Keir Starmer is lying. I'm among that 86%. Are you?
Well, I wouldn't like to say. I mean, to be honest, I think there are two alternatives here, aren't there? Either he is lying, which is what the Tories seem to be saying, or his incompetence is such that he had no idea that this hugely important decision was made to overrule the vetting without his knowledge. I mean, you know, either way, it doesn't look good for the Prime Minister. He's either a liar or he's not good at his job. But, I mean, you know, in terms of, I think the eyes of the public would be glad to see the back of him sooner rather than later, depending, with the important caveat, depending upon who comes next. You know, I was quite entertained by Darren Jones, the Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister today, when he was responding to claims that Keir Starmer should step down. And he said that with, you know, everything that's going on in the Middle East and with energy bills and things, the quote is, "You need a credible, reliable, strong Prime Minister to be able to take the country through these difficult times." I thought to myself, is he trying to argue that he should step down or he shouldn't step down?
Listen, this is an incredible development that's happened this afternoon. I mean, I say this afternoon, but we've been reminded of. David Maddox, the former political editor of the Daily Express and now the political editor of The Independent, he came on to talk a couple of hours ago, spoke to my colleague Mark Dolan, and he said, well, we've got this Prime Minister and all these cabinet ministers and Darren Jones, by the way. So, we didn't know anything about this. Nobody told us until Tuesday. Oh, it's a disgrace. We've got the performative fury of Keir Starmer. It's absolutely furious that nobody told me. David Maddox wrote the splash story in The Independent on September the 12th last year that Peter Mandelson had failed the security vetting process. He wrote that story. It was their big splash story. The idea that the Prime Minister knew nothing of this, or indeed the Cabinet, just doesn't stack up, does it?
No, it doesn't. There seems to be a marked lack of curiosity when it comes to Peter Mandelson and the vetting process. I mean, it does, I think, to the public, it does smack of a kind of cronyism. You know, my suspicion is that Peter Mandelson was given the job not in spite of failing vetting, but almost because of it, because what the vetting would have shown is that he's very well connected with some very powerful but perhaps insalubrious characters, and perhaps it seems like the feeling was that that would do us well, do him well in his moving and shaking stateside. But that's no way to run a government. You know, I think people at home will be asking themselves, thinking back to the Boris Johnson years when Keir Starmer was so principled upon government behaviour. He was such a stickler for detail and for process. And then when he was elected Prime Minister, he told us all that we were going to have grown-up politics that was going to work in the national interest. And I seem to recall him saying that the government was going to tread lightly on your lives. Do you remember that? Well, I mean, I can only laugh a hollow laugh along with you, Kevin, at that memory. I mean, look what's happened since. He's been so much worse. Even Boris was in all these different ways. He's been an abject failure, the most unpopular Prime Minister, I think, since records began. I think it's fair to say that. And this is just the latest scandal that he's trying to weasel out of.
Yeah, he's going to tread lightly on our lives. He didn't mention he'd be wearing hobnail boots at the time. Yeah. Let's have a quick look at Keir Starmer. This is this morning. I think it's in the Downing Street back garden just before he flew off to Paris to talk about the Strait of Hormuz with Macron. So here's the Prime Minister this morning.
That I wasn't told that Peter Mandelson had failed security vetting when he's appointed is staggering. That I wasn't told that he'd failed security vetting when I was telling Parliament that due process had been followed is unforgivable. Not only was I not told, no minister was told. And I'm absolutely furious about that. What I intend to do is to go to Parliament on Monday to set out all the relevant facts in true transparency so Parliament has the full picture.
I'll tell you what, Jake, I haven't seen the Prime Minister so furious since when he exploded in rage that upon learning that Peter Mandelson had lied to him before appointing him to the position of Ambassador to the United States of America, and subsequently found out that Peter Mandelson hadn't lied to him because he hadn't talked to him. So it just strikes me that's more performative anger, fury from a man who's sitting on some kind of truth that we don't know about. I'm pretty certain of that. Now, I'm sure you've been following the proceedings as intricately as I have, but let me just run through it and get your reaction. So what we are now being asked to believe, because poor Sir Ollie Robbins, a Mandarin at the Foreign Office, a career civil servant, 300 grand a year. Very careful, these guys. They're bureaucrats. That's what they do. They're very, very cautious and careful. We are being asked to believe from Downing Street that this career civil servant, Sir Ollie Robbins no less, received the vetting report on Peter Mandelson after, by the way, Peter Mandelson was already in the job. Why they didn't wait for the vetting results is beyond me, but they didn't. He gets the security vetting results. Oh my God, Peter Mandelson has failed. We are being asked to believe that at this point, this career careful civil servant, who's not stupid, for God's sake, got this information. Oh, I know what I'm going to do with this. I'm not going to tell anyone. I'm going to keep it a secret and put it in my pocket. I'm not going to tell the Prime Minister. I'm not going to tell the Cabinet. Sir Richard Dearlove, former head of MI6, said that story is frankly utter rubbish. So someone somewhere is not telling the truth. I do not believe for a second that Sir Ollie Robbins received that report and did not tell anyone. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it does feel to me as if you may be right, but we just don't know. You know, I mean, you just don't know what was going on. We've got to hear from Ollie Robbins as to why he made that decision, if it was his decision that he made. Will he ever tell the public that? Probably not. And the thing is that the contents of this vetting stuff is so sensitive, and it has to be that way, because if the contents were passed between government officials and departments and became public, then nobody would ever be honest when they're being vetted, if you see what I mean. So yeah, it's always rather a black box. But I think for me, what it comes down to is seeing that statement that you just played by Sir Keir Starmer with all this fury at the system. seems not to take into account the fact that it's his system. I mean, he's in charge of it. It's like building a house, the house falls down, and I'm furious at the house that I built for falling down because it was so terrible. I mean, it's your government. You are in charge. It's your responsibility. If it fails so badly, you shouldn't be cross at them. You should be stepping down, mate.
Exactly right. Now, I think you'd agree with me that Monday is going to be a rather key day in this evolving drama, insofar as, of course, Keir Starmer's going to go to the House of Commons and make his statement. My guess will be it will be more performative fury. I'm just not buying this, that he had no idea about this. I mean, why didn't he read the Independent last September the 12th, for God's sake? So he's going to go to the House of Commons. That will be interesting. But I think the key event on Monday will be Sir Ollie Robbins, who's been called to testify to the Foreign Affairs Select Committee. His story, I think, is going to be potentially explosive.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the thing that lies behind all this really is that Keir Starmer seems to have only one value that informs his decisions and behaviour, and that is political survival. It seems like he'll do anything to survive and believe anything, say anything, argue anything, if it's only going to keep him in power a little while longer. Because, you know, the principle, I think, to the rest of the country is quite obvious. That the principle is that if it's your system and it's broken, it's failed so badly, you're at the top, you're the leader, you should be taking responsibility for that by but not passing the buck, not being furious at someone beneath you and sacking them and saying it's their fault and I'm scot-free, but taking responsibility for the system, for the country. I mean, the country and how it runs is ultimately the Prime Minister's responsibility. If he's failed at that, then he needs to take responsibility for that and step down.
It is, absolutely. It's an extraordinary situation, and, you know, I'm not the only one. Certainly this time next week, whether or not the Prime Minister will still be in situ is quite a question. I think he's really on the rack this time, because every single other party leader, they're not often united, but you've got the Tories, the Lib Dems, the Greens, the SNP, all of them are saying, step down, you've got to go. I think he may have reached the tipping point, but my God, he knows how to cling on by his fingernails, doesn't he? Let's move on to the Middle East, Jake. What do you make of all this? Iran is now saying the Strait of Hormuz is open. Israel and Lebanon are saying that they're not going to bomb each other anymore. Of course, Donald Trump is saying that he's brought peace to the world again. Where are you at with all this? Is this the end of the nightmare? Are we sailing onto the sunlit uplands, or do you think there may be trouble ahead?
It's really too early to say. I mean, no one's verified that Iran has actually made good on its pledge to open the Strait of Hormuz again. And even if it does, I think the worrying thing is that it has shown that it retains the power to close the strait whenever it likes. And, you know, once this war is over and all of the American forces withdraw, I mean, it's bloody expensive to put that amount of assets in theatre in that way. It's also expensive in terms of Donald Trump's political currency. It's difficult. It's an unpopular war at home. It's unpopular with politicians in America as well. So getting them all back there again is pretty unlikely while Donald Trump is in power. And then once at the end of his term, in a few years' time, it's unlikely that whether he's succeeded by another MAGA politician who's likely to be more isolationist or a Democrat, it's unlikely that they'll go and apply the same kind of pressure again. So if Iran keeps that card in its hands of being able to close the Strait of Hormuz, it will be able to do so in the future without the threat likely of American action. So that's a real concern, that even if it does open the strait, that situation could return and could come back. But at the same time, I think it's shown that Donald Trump, I mean, if it's true, if it does reopen, and if Iran is playing ball now in returning the enriched uranium to the United States, if it is playing ball in terms of the ballistic missile stockpile, the proxies and all the rest of it, which I, take with a great pinch of salt, if it is complying with all that, then I think that Donald Trump could claim some kind of victory here. But it's really too early to tell.
Absolutely. This is the Prime Minister again. My producer's given me a note here. It says, earlier, the Prime Minister spoke alongside Macron and Meloni at a pointless summit in Paris. But this is what the Prime Minister had to say over in France.
Thirdly, and crucially, we agreed to accelerate our military planning. I can confirm
that along with France, the UK will lead a multinational mission to protect freedom of navigation as soon as conditions allow. This will be strictly peaceful and defensive as a mission to reassure commercial shipping and support mine clearance.
Well, I'm not sure why Starmer thinks he's got anything to do with all of this, but more to the point, Jake, what's your feeling about Israel and Lebanon? Trump and both sides actually saying they're going to stop bombing each other. Do you think that will happen?
Well, I mean, Donald Trump's latest post was very, very strongly worded, saying that he basically had ordered Israel to stop attacking Hezbollah in Lebanon. I think the key to understanding all this really is that it's not a war between Israel and Lebanon. That's what the media seems to be getting wrong and seems to be...
It's Hezbollah, isn't it? Yeah.
It's against Hezbollah. And in fact, the Lebanese and the Israelis issued a joint statement just a couple of days ago, and one of the points on it was saying that we are not at war. This is not about Lebanon. This is about Hezbollah, which actually is destroying Lebanon from within in terms of corruption, in terms of its inroads into politics, in terms of drug trafficking, and of course turning it into a zombie host for the parasite of Hezbollah to use it to attack Israel repeatedly under Iranian influence. And so this is about Hezbollah. And the fact is that what Israel wants to do is to drive Hezbollah's forces back to north of the Litani River, which is about 15 miles or so from the Israeli border. Now, that's a really vital position because the UN Resolution 1701 of 2006, I think it was, said that Hezbollah must not go south of that river down towards Israeli territory. And of course, that resolution was totally ignored. The UN peacekeepers were pathetic in enforcing it. The Lebanese government didn't have the political will to enforce it. As a result, Hezbollah embedded all along the Israeli border, just meters sometimes across the Israeli border, certainly in the hundreds of meters. And as a result, whenever it shoots rockets over, as it has done since October the 7th, the Israeli communities on the other side only get seconds to respond. And you remember the Majd al-Shams incident in 2024 when those 12 Druze kids were killed on that football field, if you remember, in northern Israel by a Hezbollah rocket. Literally, the siren went off and seconds later, the rocket fell because they didn't have the time to move out the way. And that's because Hezbollah has been embedded so close to the border that that's what happens. And so Israel now has taken matters into its own hands after so many years of being under this threat and created this buffer zone, pushing Hezbollah back across the river as it should be, and creating that buffer zone to ensure the safety of its own civilians. And the cost of that, of course, is the displacement of more than 1 million people, which is a tragic consequence of the ineptitude of the UN and Lebanon in enforcing the Security Resolution 1701.
So, I mean, the headline on all this, I would say, is we hope that everything Donald Trump is saying comes about. Strait of Hormuz, obviously, Iran cutting back on attacking all the other Gulf states. In other words, a complete de-escalation of the military conflict. But I would suggest that the problem with, as you're saying, Jake, the problem with peace or ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon, that may well be the case, but you know, Hezbollah, you can't trust them as far as you can throw them. And as soon as people start talking about peace, Hezbollah are the kind of people, it strikes me, who will be irritated by the idea of a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon and do all they can to destroy that ceasefire.
Yeah, I mean, Hezbollah exists really only to further the interests of the Islamic Republic of Iran, to try to Islamize Lebanon and to try to fight Israel. That's its only objective. And in my view, although, of course, we want peace, I think it's wrong to talk in terms of de-escalation. I think it's better to talk in terms of victory. Because if we see a temporary peace with the Iranians that leaves the Iranians with cards to play and intact, if we see a temporary peace with Hezbollah, which leaves them with great influence in Lebanese society and be able to build up their forces again, then we're only going to see a return to war in the future further down the line. There's going to be this, what they call the mowing the lawn, that grim metaphor of Israel having to go in and again degrade the enemy because they still haven't put out the fire in its entirety. You know, as Benny Gantz, the Israeli politician, said a couple of years ago, you can't put out 80% of a fire if you want to extinguish it, you've got to put out the whole thing.
That's a good point.
And whether in Iran or in Lebanon, ultimately the fires have got to be put out completely. We can't lose our nerve with that. They've got to be put out either with military or political means or both together in order for the threats to completely recede. And in Lebanon, that means that the Lebanese government's got to step up with support from the international community and eject and suppress Hezbollah once and for all.
Jake, great to have you on the show as always. Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful weekend. The excellent Jake Wallace-Simons there. Let's go to break. Don't forget, get your calls in, get your WhatsApp voice notes in, 0344 499 1000. So much to talk about. As of about 6:30, we're going to go all the way through to 7, just talking to you. Let's talk. Let's get your calls in. Half an hour of straight talking with you, the audience. It's good to talk on Talk. So let's go to break. When we come back, though, before we get to the phones, we're going to talk about Prince Harry and his declarations about parenthood and fatherhood. Who the hell is he to make these declarations? What is he talking about? Parenthood, fatherhood, I had to cleanse myself of my past, etc., etc. What is it? What is self-appointed expert on fatherhood? Should wind his neck in, shouldn't he? We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
The world is on fire. Russia, Iran, China, conflicts brewing in all of their different regions. They're not waiting. But here in Britain, our armed forces are underfunded, they're undermanned, and they're underprepared. And nobody in government wants to talk about it. Well, we do. I'm Philip Ingram, and I spent my career in the world of intelligence, military planning, strategic planning, and unfortunately, conflict. This is Talk War, and this is where we analyse the conflicts shaping our world.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm under instructions from the producer of TFI Friday, a production here. It's on 11 p.m. tonight on Channel 5 with Chris Evans. TFI Friday in Channel 5, not Channel 5. Let me start that again. It's on Channel 4 at 11 p.m. TFI Friday. It's produced by our brilliant producer here, Chuck Thomas, starring Chris Evans. You don't want to miss it. 11 p.m. Channel 4, TFI Friday, the return of that classic show. Also, I'm going to bring you promos for my two shows, Plank of the Week and What Just Happened. Should we do Plank of the Week first? Let's do that now. So here is a clip from Plank of the Week, which will be live on YouTube at 7 p.m. in about half an hour. So here's Plank of the Week. Why have they got exclusive rights to the rainbow?
I used to think the pride flag used to look cool when it was just a rainbow, and now it looks so ugly.
But yeah, well, why have they got
why
can't we have the
brown and
rainbow?
black to a rainbow?
Why can't we have the rainbow? Why have they got to have it?
Or why don't you do planks next week wearing a rainbow jacket? Go on.
Well, yeah, I think I will. I think I will. Let's move on. Yeah, that was me saying that the heterosexual community should reclaim the rainbow flag, the rainbow colours, because the gay community seem to have sort of claimed all the rights. I wasn't being that serious, but you know what I mean. That's Plank of the Week for you. That's 7 o'clock. That's in about half an hour. So watch it live on YouTube. Let's go over to my next guest. I want to talk about Harry, Prince Harry. He's been down in Australia, you know, sounding off, psycho-babbling his head off about parenthood. And I'm thinking, well, you know, should he be doing this? What does he know about it? Let's talk to psychologist Wendy Gregory. Hi, Wendy.
Kevin.
Well, here is Harry on one of his many declarations about parenthood and fatherhood down in Australia.
There have been many times when I felt overwhelmed. Times when I felt lost, betrayed, or completely powerless. Times when the pressure, externally and internally, felt constant. And times when, despite everything going on, I still had to show up, pretending everything was okay, so as not to let anyone down. Some of those experiences were unique, but the feelings that came with them were not. Grief, uncertainty, pressure, loss of identity, the need to keep going even when you're not sure how.
He also said, Wendy, I'm going to quote him now, I see parenting evolving over time. Not to say that I upgraded my dad or that my kids upgraded me, but the kids we bring up in today's world need to be upgraded. Do you have any idea what the hell this guy's talking about? Because I don't.
I do, actually. I quite liked what he said. I think your accent is fantastic, by the way.
Yeah, I just put on a dim, posh accent, and that's Harry for you, isn't it? But,
yes.
You know, who's he to tell us how to bring up kids? Why has he appointed himself a sort of psycho-babbling expert?
Well, I don't think he has appointed himself.
Well, why is he making that speech then?
Because it's a conversation that probably needs to be had, to be opened up, a topic that needs to be opened up. You know, so much is, I mean, it's not perfect anyway, but so much is said about motherhood and new motherhood and postnatal depression and all of that. Very little, you hear very, very little about how it affects fathers being a new father. And, you know, I think really good for him. And I think what he meant by the upgrading, I also quite liked that.
That didn't make any sense to me at all. It's absolute gobbledygook, gibberish.
Okay, right. I will try and make sense of it for you, Kevin.
But honestly, Wendy, don't bother. I just don't care. I mean, I just don't think this guy's qualified to lecture us about fatherhood.
Well, he's not qualified, but I don't.
Well, why is he doing it then?
I don't think he's lecturing. I think he was trying to bring up a topic of conversation. So basically,
who asked him to do that?
I've no idea.
Oh, well, he should wind his neck in then, shouldn't he?
Well, the same could be said.
Anyway, sorry, Wendy, go on. Tell me why it's so important that Harry shares with us his important views on fatherhood. Why is that important?
Well, I think he was just making, as I said, opening up a conversation. But most people, to sort of generalise from that, most people tend to think that their own parents were either really awful, so they do everything differently to how their parents brought them up, or they tend to think they were perfect and do exactly the same. Neither of those is particularly healthy. You know, a much more balanced view is to actually reflect what things did your parents do well and what did they not do so well. And most of us, Kevin, are a mixture of good and not so good parent. Nobody is a perfect parent. But it's very useful to think of that. And I think that's what Harry was getting at about upgrading.
What do you mean upgrade? What does he mean?
Trying to be a better parent than your own parent was, you know, trying to do the things that they did well, but improve on the things they didn't. I'll just give you an example from my own experience. It is partly a generational thing, but my parents were very good on firm boundaries and discipline and so on. They weren't so good at talking and listening. You know, children's opinions then were not considered of any importance whatsoever. So I hope we've moved on from that.
I agree with that. I mean, you know, my parents were quite right not to listen to a word I ever said. Right until the day they died, actually, when I was grown up. But, you know, anyway, go on. Sorry.
That's okay. As I said, most of us are a mixture of good and bad parenting. Most parents, there are some very obvious exceptions, do the best that they can with the knowledge that they have. And he did point out, you know, I'm not judging, I'm not blaming. I don't doubt.
But he wasn't he, obviously?
Yeah, I don't doubt that Harry was doing a better job than his dad did, although I'm not blaming Charles either. You know, he had all kinds
Why don't you doubt that he's doing a better job than his dad
did? Actually,
did?
yeah, that's probably...
I doubt that he is.
Okay, well, yeah, I might be wrong in that. Well, let's take it a generation further back. I don't doubt that Prince Charles did a better job than his parents did. His father sent him away to a boarding school when he was 6, and he begged to come home, and he wasn't allowed to. And I think he had quite a tough time.
Do you know what? You know, one thing I never forgave my parents for is they didn't send me away to boarding school because they couldn't afford it. I'm only joking, obviously. Obviously, no. I mean, I'm not against what he's saying. I don't understand why this guy, you know, who happens to be the second son of the king, has appointed himself a sort of self-styled psycho-babbling expert on fatherhood. I don't get it. Who the hell is he to tell us how to bring up kids? Who the hell is he to say all of this?
I don't think he is telling us how to bring up kids.
Why doesn't he just shut up then?
I think he's just talking about his own experience, and people
we don't want to hear it. I don't.
You don't have to listen.
I mean, you know, if I stood up and said, well, let me tell you about the father, you know, who would I be to say that? Who the hell does he think he is?
Well, people do listen to him, Kevin, and that's a fact.
Well,
people are endlessly fascinated with the royals.
Yeah, well, he's not really a royal anymore.
I know he's not. He's an ex-royal, but people are absolutely fascinated. So I think he's making the most of the position that he has to try and open up the whole issue of mental health for men, as we know, widely.
I guess so. I'm just, I mean, I see what you're saying, Wendy. I'm being a bit facetious, as you know. But and I take your point. And thank you so much for joining us. Come on again soon. That's Wendy Gregory, psychologist. What do you think? I just don't get it. Why is this? I'm going to upgrade. I had to cleanse myself of my past. Well, it's seeing a couple of kids. Yeah, all right. It's not the event of the century, mate. Right, let's go to break. After the break, for the rest of the show, we're taking your calls. 0344 499 1000. So get on the blower, let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk. Back in a mo.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Breaking news. Number 10 have published documents that they believe prove their version of events. It includes emails between officials, SPADs, political advisors, following the Tuesday night meeting where the Prime Minister and his aides were made aware that Mandelson had failed the vetting process. It says, quote, the Prime Minister was not aware of any of this before the meeting, including that it was even possible to grant clearance against the advice of UKSV, that's the security services. That email was from Dan York-Smith. He is the Prime Minister's civil service aide. And that also confirms Mandelson's failed vetting. Well, look, the fact is there's a problem there in itself for Starmer. If he knew on Tuesday and didn't say anything in Prime Minister's question time, that's a clear breaking of the ministerial code. Should not have kept that secret from the House of Commons. So he's got problems there. And as I keep saying, why didn't they read The Independent last September the 12th? When it was effectively the front page of that online newspaper, a story written by David Maddox saying, a lot of respected political journalists saying, stating in black and white that Peter Mandelson failed the vetting process. Why didn't they read that there? This isn't stacking up at all. And by the way, number 10 desperately publishing these documents. That sounds to me like they're scrabbling to save this situation, to rescue this disastrous situation for a Prime Minister that 86% of the population think is lying through his teeth. That is unacceptable. Let's go to the phones. Oh no, hang on. I'm going to play this first. It's my show, What Just Happened. That comes on at 9 o'clock tonight, live on Talk. And then is available on YouTube tomorrow. You can watch it or listen to it. It is radio friendly, but it's on YouTube as of tomorrow about 9 a.m. And it is live on Talk tonight. What just happened? Here's a clip.
The expenses they waste, millions on cabs, on biscuits even. You know, when you look at the yearly bill of the BBC, it's just waste.
So they spend something like £19 million. That's about $30 million a year on taxes. On cabs.
Kev, did you used to work? You used to work at the BBC.
I've worked at.
What was it like with the expenses there? Could you?
Well, I'll tell you.
Did you have a time of your life?
No, it is a licence to print personal money. I'll tell you that. Yeah, I wasn't staff on the BBC, by the way. I did quite a lot of broadcasting for them. It's a nice place to work, funny enough. Anyway, that's What Just Happened. That's Ash Gould and Ellie Hodges, my excellent panel, and me, of course. That's 9 o'clock tonight, live on Talk. 9 o'clock tomorrow on YouTube, anytime you like. Very radio-friendly if you can't watch it on the telly. Right, let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Tony in Doncaster.
Evening, Kevin. I subscribe to the theory, and you probably think I'm going to be sectional, but I think Keir Starmer should finish his entire term.
So you think he's what? He's finished?
I think in theory, even though it's not going to happen, I want him to stay on for his entire term.
Why?
Why? Because I'm a right-wing person of conservative, hard-working values. And the fact and reality is we've got Labour for 4 to 5 years because they are not going to have a general election. And if we all call for Starmer to go, the facts are there. What are we going to get? We're going to get Rayner. We're going to get
Miliband,
yeah, and he lives near me in Doncaster.
Yeah.
And this guy that we've got in, yes, he's a liar. Yes, he's incompetent. Yes, he's an idiot. But I'd rather have an idiot than somebody who was actually clever and devious and sinister. And we're not going to get a change of government for the next 2 or 3 years.
Well, when you say about clever, I take your point, Tony. A lot of people saying this, careful what you wish for. We get rid of Starmer and we end up with Prime Minister Rayner or even worse, Prime Minister Miliband, or a combination of those two. There's some talk that there may be a double ticket of Rayner Prime Minister, Miliband Chancellor of the Exchequer, none of which bears thinking about. So, yeah, careful what you wish for. Get rid of Starmer, it could be even worse. But when you say clever, You think Angela Rayner and Ed Miliband are clever?
No, I actually think Miliband's clever. I just think he's warped.
Do you think he's clever?
Yeah, I do. I think he's an intelligent person. I just
Do
think
you?
he's a
Why?
bit warped.
Why do you think that?
Well, because at the end of the day, the policy he stands, he has an agenda. Because in my humble opinion, I actually think, and nobody knows for certain, but I won't be surprised if he ends up doing a deal in the coalition in the next election with the Green Party.
Oh, yeah, no,
So I think he's got an agenda. So just to finish off what I was going to say.
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
I am really, really concerned going forward. And I think the best thing for people that are of conservative, reform, or in my particular allegiance, which is Restore Britain, which is Rupert Lowe, I think the best thing going forward is to leave this idiot in charge for 2 years, let them blow up, and then for the right wing to go forward. And one last point on this.
But just to interrupt for a second, Tony, by all means, make your last point in just a second. You say 2 years, it's 3 years.
Well, yeah, you're right, yeah.
The trouble is, you know, and I, you know, a lot of people on the right say, let these people stay in power because after 3 more years of this, that will be the end of the Labour Party. They will never get back in again. And I take that point and I understand that point. But what worries me is what is going to happen to this country in the next 3 years. We will be ruined. That's what worries me about it.
Well, I'll throw back at that one. We're already ruined anyway.
Yeah, so there is that.
So I'll throw you a question back.
Yeah.
Do you honestly believe that by having either Mrs. Rayner or Mr. Miliband or even Mr. Street in, which is probably not going to happen, do you honestly think that things are going to get any better over the next 3 years?
No, I don't. I mean, and I understand it, you know, better the useless devil you know than the useless devil you don't know, so stick with Starmer. I get that. I just think that one of the real crises in this country more and more is this total lack of accountability by anyone. Nobody gets blamed, nobody gets punished, and that is a very pernicious syndrome in this country. And I just think that maybe it might be a good idea to kick Starmer out because that's an issue of accountability. You have screwed everything up in spades. You are hereby punished. Get the hell out of number 10 Downing Street.
Can I come back with one last point on that?
One last point,
let Neil speak. Right, yeah. 2 things. One, I'm furious. I blame the Conservatives for this because people only voted for Labour for a change and they didn't know what they were voting for because the Conservatives got complacent. So they have to take accountability. And finally,
wait a second. Hang on. Tony. That case has not happened and you don't know anything. There are only allegations. You've got to be very, very careful with that. You have to wait for the legal process to take its course. But thank you for an excellent call. Tony in Doncaster there. Now, let's read a couple of messages, shall we? This is, about Epsom. This is... Dan in Staffordshire. He says, me and my brother were talking last night and he said, what if this girl, the victim, has made this up? If this is the case, there could be a reason for nothing being released, and if she needs punishment. We don't know about that. But the point is, you know, she must have given the police a description. You just don't go and say I was raped, I don't know anything about these people. And when the police are saying it definitely wasn't migrants or asylum seekers, if they don't know who it was, how come they know who it wasn't? It's a good point, isn't it? 03444991000. This is Leslie. She says, if Mandelson was appointed before the vetting process was completed and Starmer was told, then he would have had to recall Mandelson, which would have been in itself a scandal. Yeah, well, it's true that he was already in situ. Incredibly, they did give him the job before they got the results of the vetting process. And then the results we now know were that he failed. Apparently, it was something to do, or the fears surrounding Mandelson were probably immense on a number of levels, but mainly, apparently, they were to do with his connections in China, or his relations with businessmen in China, etc. So apparently China was at the centre of why he failed this process. Let's go to break. Let's take some more calls when we come back.
The world is on fire. Russia, Iran, China, conflicts brewing in all of their different regions. They're not waiting. But here in Britain, our armed forces are underfunded, they're undermanned, and they're underprepared. And nobody in government wants to talk about it. Well, we do. I'm Philip Ingram, and I spent my career in the world of intelligence, military planning, strategic planning, and unfortunately, conflict. This is Talk War, and this is where we analyse the conflicts shaping our world.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yeah, I've got this document that Downing Street have hurriedly released. It's a readout of the meeting between the Prime Minister, Cabinet Secretary, Permanent Secretary of the Cabinet Office, Vidya Alakison, and the PPS to the Prime Minister. Here it is. And it basically says, Prime Minister didn't know anything until Tuesday. Yeah, why didn't you read The Independent last September the 12th? You know, this just looks like, oh, no. It turns out that the Prime Minister's story is entirely true. Downing Street are able to confirm to us that he's not lying. Yeah, right, OK. Thanks for that excellent statement. Thank you. Right, let's go back to the phones. Let's talk to Elizabeth in Chorley. Hello, Elizabeth.
Hello.
Hi. What would you like to say?
I'd just like to go back to a couple of weeks ago when Morgan McSweeney's phone went missing.
Yeah. Or when he said it went missing.
Yeah, when he said it went missing. I think they already knew that this were going to come out, and I think his phone allegedly went missing because there's stuff on that phone that will probably implicate.
Well, we don't know that. I mean, but the fact that the phone has gone missing is rather convenient for all sorts of people, don't you think?
Yes, but we don't know that, as you've said. But
we don't know what's on the phone.
We don't know a lot, do we?
No, we don't. So, yeah, I mean, the whole thing gets murkier and murkier.
Well, it's the way that the Labour government operates.
They certainly do.
It's not transparent. You can say whatever you like about any other government, but we always knew what they were doing. We don't know what these lot are doing.
Yeah, I think that I mean, they're the worst government that I can ever remember. I mean,
Yeah,
they
well,
seriously
it's the
are.
worst
And
government I
is
can
by
remember.
he is by far and away the worst Prime Minister in my lifetime, and
mine.
And I include Liz Truss.
You're
in
younger
that.
than me.
Yeah, but yeah,
I'm of the ilk of the miners' strike in the early 70s.
that's Thatcher.
And Harold Wilson and James Callaghan.
Yeah, I remember them.
And Ted Heath.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, but yeah, this is a terrible government and this is a terrible Prime Minister.
Yeah, but it's actually worse.
Yeah, they're the worst. They're the worst.
Than In Your Nightmare.
Yeah, they are. They're a nightmare. They're a nightmare. Do you think Keir Starmer, Elizabeth, will be still be our Prime Minister this time next week?
Yeah, I do.
Let's see. Let's see.
I actually do. I wish I could say no, but I can't because they wriggle out of everything.
He's a slippery character. He wriggles out of everything. I think you're right. But let's see. I do think he's in serious trouble. Let's see what the next week brings. Elizabeth, have a lovely weekend. Great call. Thank you. Elizabeth in Chorley. Here's a voice note from Dallas on Mandelson.
We know that Starmer is a Weasley lawyer. We know that he likes splitting hairs and he likes the niceties of speech. Is it possible that when he says he was not told, he's using the word to tell in its vocal sense, and nobody actually said the words to him, but that he was advised by letter or by email or by text message, but he wasn't told? It's a thought, isn't it? We know what he's like with his little wriggly phrases.
It is a thought. Well said, Dallas. But it's like I say, this sort of performative fury that we saw from the Prime Minister earlier, he clearly spoke in the Downing Street garden before he hopped on a plane on another one of his foreign jaunts, this one to Paris. I'm furious I wasn't told. I'm absolutely furious. Well, I haven't seen him so angry since he was furious and Peter Mandelson lied to me. He lied to me. And then we found out that he didn't lie to him because he didn't speak to him. So when Keir Starmer says he's furious about something, don't necessarily take it at face value. You know what I'm saying? 86% of the country think he's lying. I'm part of that 86%. What are you? Let's talk to Michael in Hertfordshire. Hello, Michael. Hello? Michael? Michael? All right. Michael's gone off to have a chat with his next door neighbour or something. Let's go to Karen in Bournemouth. Hi, Karen.
Hi, Kevin. How you doing?
I'm all right. What would you like to say?
Well, first thing is that I think one of the reasons he'll stay on for a little bit.
There goes your dog. I always forget your dog's name.
Elsa.
Elsa. Welcome to the show again, Elsa. Always good to have you on. Go on, Karen.
Yeah. I think one of the reasons that they wanted Mandelson in as ambassador was because the Chinese wanted scandal on him. They wanted information that might destroy Trump. The second thing is that they've been getting rid of Starmer is not going to make any difference to the situation because there's too many other people in this little gang of traitors.
Yeah, I take that point, Karen, but my view on it is, it's about punishment. It's about accountability. If Starmer, we don't know this yet, but if Starmer has been lying through his teeth all along and continues to lie on his teeth, I understand that getting rid of him won't make the situation any better. We'll probably end up with Rayner or Miliband, which will be even worse. But in this country, there should be accountability. People should be punished for their mistakes, for their crimes. And if all this, if he turns out to be that he's lying through his teeth yet again, then I just think it would be good for this nation that a man who has lied and deceived us gets punished by losing his job. That's all I would say. Listen, Karen, I've got to go. Have a lovely weekend, and my regards to Elsa, your lovely dog. He's in the studio. He's just getting ready. It's Peter Mandelson. Peter Mandelson's in the studio. That would be good, wouldn't it? Yeah. That would be a good guest. If I had Peter Mandelson in the studio, I wouldn't be leaving. Unfortunately, I've only got Peter Cardwell.
Well, I have been in this studio with Peter Mandelson and Julia Hartley-Brewer previously, which was a very interesting afternoon, let me tell you.
Okay. Anyway, what you got coming up on your show?
Well, unsurprisingly, we're talking about Peter Mandelson because we're talking to a former ambassador who's been through the vetting or similar vetting that he has gone through, all this very, very high clearance. We're also talking about Iran opening the Straits of Hormuz and what will happen. Lucy Beresford and Maxwell Marlowe on the debate desk will talk about all sorts of things, including the botched drone attack on the Israeli embassy. We'll talk about that as well. We'll talk to David Wooding, columnist at The Sun, long-serving Westminster journalist, about Keir Starmer, just to try and see through this and see exactly what we're being told versus what we can actually prove. And we'll talk to Natasha Hausdorff as well about the Israeli embassy plot and a few other things too.
Sure, it sounds like a great show. Stick with Peter. It'll take you through to 9 o'clock tonight. Then it's What Just Happened, as I just said, so it's going to be a great show. Let me ask you this, though, seasoned Westminster sage that you are. There's great protestations of innocence. You know, Downing Street have just sent us this to prove that...
it doesn't prove anything.
To prove
doesn't prove anything.
That
I've read
Keir
it. Doesn't prove
Starmer
anything.
didn't know anything until Tuesday. It was the splash by David Maddox in The Independent on September the 12th last year that Peter Mandelson failed the vetting process. How can they plead ignorance of all this?
Surely, if that's the front page of a national newspaper, you pick up the phone to the Foreign Office and you say, is there anything in this? Now, if the Foreign Office said, no, there's nothing in it, story's wrong, completely wrong, you've passed the vetting, well then you can only work on what you've been told. But I think what's really interesting in all of this is how little the heat is on Sir Ollie Robbins here. There aren't people saying he's done a dreadful thing, he's done a terrible thing. The only people who are doing that are Keir Starmer and Number 10. They've thrown him under a bus here. He did the job he was meant to do. They have willfully or otherwise not got the information that they should have had.
And he's before the Foreign Affairs Select Committee.
That's going to be box
Monday.
office.
That will be a nuclear bomb of a story, I'll tell you that.
As the person who's asking the questions is Emily Thornberry, who, let's remember, was not in the cabinet thanks to Keir Starmer.
All explosive stuff. Stick with Peter all the way through to 9 o'clock. You've been a great audience. I'll see you next week on Monday. Oh, God, I thought we were finished. God, I'm having a good day.
You've got another minute. You've got another minute, Kevin.
I will see you again on Monday at 4 o'clock.